Thabiso Koba, Eyewitness News.
Suspended Director of the Tshwane Asset Protection Services, that was Chukudu Malachi, at the Commission yesterday. Some civil society groups and unions have welcomed the draft bill around the protection of whistleblowers. Yesterday, Justice Minister Mamoloko Kubai released the Protected Disclosure Bill, which is meant to address the shortcomings in existing legislation. If the bill passes, disclosing the identities of whistleblowers would be criminalized, and those who ring the alarm on corruption would be catered for in witness protection by the state. Khomotso Modise has more.
The draft Protected Disclosure Bill has been widely welcomed by Labour and civil society, with Trade Union Federation COSATU describing the proposed law as progressive. CEO of the Whistleblower House, Ben Theron, has described the bill as a step in the right direction. He's proposed ways of how the law can be better implemented once it's passed.
So if John working for 702 sees something wrong, he doesn't know who to talk to. That needs to be spelled out. If you're in this industry, this is where you go. If this is your company, the company should have a designated person that becomes the person that you go and talk to. Those kind of structures need to be set in place.
The bill is now open for public comment, and submissions can be made until the 14th of May before it goes to Parliament. Khomotso Modise, Eyewitness News, Pretoria.
The Social Security Agency has welcomed a constitutional court judgment in its favour, calling it a powerful affirmation of the legal system. This week, the Apex Court ordered service provider Cash Paymaster Services to repay over 81 million rand to Sassa in a dispute that has gone on for years. The amount represents profits from Sassa's contract with CPS, which was previously declared invalid. Sassa CEO Themba Matlowo says the judgment affirms the rule of law. His spokesperson, Paseka Letsatsi.
We are satisfied with the order handed down by the justices of the Promotional Court. We believe this is a vital precursor to addressing other outstanding issues concerning CPS and finally close the chapter. In addition, Mr. Matlow said Sassa will abide by all the directives issued by the Concord and put the matter to bed.
The family of Ilana Brooke, who was murdered allegedly by her boyfriend, has expressed sadness following his release on bail. Yesterday, the Wynberg Magistrates Court granted Cape Town club cricketer Tristan Perez 5,000 rand bail despite opposition from the state. Perez is accused of murdering Brooke last month. Carlo Peterson has more.
Prosecutors argued Ilana Brooke's alleged murder followed a heated domestic argument using a voice recording recovered from Tristan Perez's cell phone. The court heard police initially responded to a possible suicide, but the case was later upgraded to murder. In granting bail, the magistrate ruled Tristan Perez showed sufficient ties to the community and was not a flight risk. Ilana Brooke's ex-husband and family spokesperson David Brooke says the family are shocked by the court's decision.
This is not only a murder, it's a gender-based violence murder, it's femicide. So we're very upset as a family, but we do know that he'll get his day in court, and we know that justice will be served for our beautiful Ilana.
Perez was warned to be back in court on the 2nd of June for the matter to resume. Carlo Peterson, Eyewitness News.
And in Ecuador, government has announced it will be imposing 100% tariffs on imports from Colombia starting in May. This is the latest move in a mounting diplomatic feud between the two countries. Ecuador kicked off a trade war with Colombia in January over what it described as the country's lack of cooperation in combating drug trafficking and illegal mining. Colombia responded with 50% tariffs and by halting electricity sales to Ecuador, which has suffered chronic energy shortages. Talks between the two countries failed to produce a breakthrough. Gold is trading at $4,744.77 an ounce. The rand is at 16.43 to the dollar, 22.05 to the pound, 19.20 to the euro, and Brent crude oil is at $96.44 a barrel.
And in the traffic, we've got an accident on the N3 North. It happened right after Vincent Chabalala Road. Delays coming out of Modderfontein Road towards Marlborough Drive. There's also roadworks along the same route, so please be on the lookout there and approach with care.
And in your sport, Rory McIlroy and Sam Burns are joint leaders after the Masters' first round. Andy Robertson set to leave Anfield at the end of the season, and Aston Villa and Crystal Palace secure first leg quarterfinal victories in Italy, while Forest were held to a draw.
A partly cloudy Friday in store for Gauteng today. Johannesburg starting at lows of 13 degrees, peaking at 27. Pretoria 14 and 29, and Vereeniging 15 and 26 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour: suspended director of Tshwane's Asset Protection Security Unit, Chukudu Malaji, has denied delegating a junior employee to authorize contract work for private security companies.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
Small business owners speak a language of their own. And it's a language MTN Business and 702 understand very well. The 702 MTN Small Business Awards. Enter now on Prime Media Plus. Let's talk shop.
This is Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa
On 702.
Let's walk the talk.
8 minutes after 6 o'clock. Welcome to 702 Breakfast. My name is indeed Bongani Bingwa. My big thanks to Ray White, who has been sitting in the hot seat for the last couple of days. I've recovered now from my dental issues. By the time I left the show on Tuesday, I think you could have heard I was lisping, sounding like an excited chipmunk. So I took the time I needed to recover. So I'm glad that I'm able to be back on the airwaves. Great to be in your company on a Friday. So much going on. I think one of the things that is very frustrating in our line of work is seeing breaking news and news move and stories develop, and you're sitting at home thinking, I want to say something, me miss, me sir, me. Well, no more of that. Welcome to the show. As always, of course, my colleagues Amoramila and Muteo Kharipe are in the studio with me. Happy Friday to you both.
Happy Friday, Bongs.
Shall we start with our tradition? No time like the present. A one, two, three.
It's a Friday. It's a Friday. It's a Friday.
This is Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa
On 702.
Let's walk the talk.
10 after 6. So, what happened? Remember on Tuesday, Donald Trump, the US president, said, open the effing strait. And I mean, it was a profanity-laden post, which you don't want to hear from any leader of any country, much less the one who claims to be that of the free world. He said 48 hours will bomb a civilization, will destroy an entire civilization. There was, by the way, and you may not know this, or maybe you do, there was a vote in the UN Security Council, which essentially was, I think was sponsored by Bahrain, and it was all about how countries needed to cooperate to get Iran to allow commercial shipping through that chokehold. Russia and China vetoed it. And it was particularly, I think, worth noting that the Chinese envoy to the UN Security Council said supporting any move for a country that seeks to destroy a civilization will send the wrong message. They were touched on their studio, essentially, because, of course, China sees themselves, correctly so, as a civilization that has been going on uninterrupted for the last 5,000 years. And the idea that some power on the world stage can say, we'll destroy you, just absolutely unpalatable to Beijing. That's the story we'll pick up in our first hour as we look back on the week that was, our political desk. A much broader focus than is typical. We're not focusing purely on South African stories. There was meant to be a 2-week ceasefire. Israel has continued to bomb Lebanon. Remember, they've taken a huge chunk of southern Lebanon, which they want to create a security buffer zone in. But they're attacking civilian areas now in Beirut, ostensibly trying to smoke out Hezbollah. And the Iranians are saying, hang on, how does Israel get to do this if there's a ceasefire? So what have they done? They've continued to close off, or at least decide who gets passage in the Strait of Hormuz. But not only that, they've attacked oil installations of Gulf countries, including Saudi Arabia. So is there, in fact, a ceasefire in practice, other than maybe the Americans not attacking? In the meantime, in the US, a poll now suggests for the first time a vast majority of Americans have a negative view of Israel, and in particular, the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, more than 60% of Americans have a negative view of the state of Israel based on all the developments of the last few years. What does all of that mean for that relationship? We'll put all those questions to Dr. Terence McNamee, who's a global affairs specialist and a senior fellow at the Montreal Institute of Global Security in Canada, somebody we've spoken to a number of times. Now, here's a question. Do you remember history, the subject, at school? Mutel, Amo, did you do history?
Yes, I did history until matric, actually.
And did you do well?
I did well, a great subject, but we were taught by someone who was quite enthusiastic about the subject, getting dressed in all different sorts of costumes, while teaching the subject, whether it was...
Give us a name.
Mr. Keane, a big Liverpool fan. If he's still out there, he really left a mark on us, because whether it was World War II or some of the battles that we had here on the continent, he would make sure he had a big case in the class of contraptions and swords and AK-47s and
oh wow. And he made history come alive.
Yeah, he made it come alive, so it was easy to learn.
Amo, did you like history?
I did. I loved history. I like storytelling, and I loved it when we got into learning about different leaders, particularly South African leaders. For instance, I remember when I was more captured, it was when we were studying Steve Biko. That for me was like a turning point in history, and I was like, I wish I had learned about him or about South Africa's struggle earlier on.
And the Black Consciousness Movement.
And the Black Consciousness
Movement. Can I tell you something?
Mm-hmm.
If you were in school today, what is being proposed by the Department of Basic Education is you wouldn't be studying about Steve Biko. You wouldn't study about the French Revolution, for example. You would not study about the American Civil Rights Movement.
Mm-hmm.
There's a new curriculum being proposed, and it seeks an Afrocentric perspective on history, world history, and in particular, our history. It's already, of course, not without its critics. We had scheduled to speak we'd been scheduled to speak to Professor Janssen from Stellenbosch University, who's described this as soul deadening. He, for personal circumstances, is no longer able to do so, but we'll speak to the department and we'll speak to an esteemed professor from the University of Johannesburg about the kind of history we would like to teach. I did better, though. Here's the irony. I did better at university in history than I did in high school. Well, for all of high school, I got straight A's until the matric exam. And I just think I got the wrong examiners, because also I wrote my matric at that pivotal 1993-94 moment. And clearly the arguments I was making were not favorable to the markers, because I'd had straight A's in history. I won the history prize at school. The external exam, I got an E. I even went and had a remark, and it still came back as an E. Went to university, got back to my A's again. So I don't think it was me. That's my story.
You've made your case.
Sticking to it, right? But I remember, for example, in one essay I wrote first year, where I think I said something about the earth being round, and something that was common cause, known fact, and the professor said, your source. What do you mean? I can't think of a better preparation for academic learning than history in the basic education level, right? Because history is an interpretation of a story, is it not? Of perspectives. You've got to be able to have nuance. You've got to be able to know where you got the information from and what would motivate somebody to tell that story in that particular way. What better preparation do you have for academic learning than that kind of interrogation as a student? So now one of the things they're proposing is to make history compulsory, I think, until grade 12. How different would our voting choices be if we all knew this history? That's our big interview. It's going to be a fascinating conversation, the kind I love.
You're with Bongani Bingwa.
702 weekday mornings, 6 to 9.
As always, you can call us on 011-883-0702 to respond to any of the questions we raise on the show, any of the issues we discuss on the show. We always have a shout out to illustrate a point. I've already kind of given it away with the history discussion. I want to know, can you remember And I made a joke with Africa Milani a little earlier on. Can you remember an event or an incident which happened? It's vivid in your mind. You know who said what, where, when, how. You can come down to the tone. You remember the smells, the feel. And this is the hill you will die on because your memory is clear. But somebody else who was at the exact same venue or place remembers it completely differently. I said to Africa, no, I'm not talking about marriage. All the married people start giggling, right? Your colleague, your sibling, your parent, your spouse remembers events entirely differently from what you do. Mateo, has that ever happened to you?
Yeah, that has. I mean, more recently, I had a braai with some mates of mine that I went to school with. And we told stories from those days. And
as one does.
I sat there thinking, oh, I don't remember it like that. And then I realized both of them remember the story similarly and differently to what I did. And
so were you the drama?
I was the drama. I was the one that made up my own history. And I was like, oh, okay.
And you can be so convinced of your correctness, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
and
that's
your memory
why,
as well. Yeah.
That's why eyewitnesses are typically not the most reliable sources, particularly even in legal matters, because what your eyes told you and what you think you heard might not be correct. Amo?
My brother and I always have these debates, and you know, he will say to the kids, okay, let's phone your auntie and ask her about this, because maybe the kids don't believe him, right?
Yeah.
And then I go in and I tell my different version of the story, and then the kids will say, okay, let's look at the videos. We're like, we didn't have videos then.
I love your kids. Let's look at the videos.
Then. We didn't have pictures then.
Oh, that's our shout out this morning. A story you remember, and somebody near and dear who was there remembers it entirely differently from you.
Let's walk the talk.
702.
We're also, of course, focusing on the return of the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry, and the focus has been very much on the Tshwane Metro Police Department and the oversight failures. I'm going to play you a clip a little later on, but this reported loss of 17 million rand a month to guard sites such as substations, for example, and other installations, which on paper looks like a good idea, except we've already heard evidence that there'd been no reported threats to any of these facilities. Multi-million rand tenders then issued to people the city cannot verify were ever there. I mean, how incredible is that? You issue millions, right, to service providers, ostensibly to protect sites, and all you have about how safe those sites were is that they tell you they were there. We besile man. Ons was daar. Hey? It just, yeah. Have you got to the point, and I think I am, where you just think, no. Like every department, every entity that we hear about at the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry, you just think, no. And the officials who are brought in to explain could not give a continental. They don't even have a story. You would think that if you're going to steal that kind of money, you better have a story. Says out. Hey, Mateo? When we get asked, KG, this is our story. No, they don't have a story.
You know what's becoming more annoying now as you listen to the commission? Somebody saying, it was a huge oversight. I think it was an oversight.
On my part.
17 million rand.
A month.
A month.
A month.
An oversight.
I'll have to go back and check. They say.
There must be a reason.
Yeah, ne?
Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa
on 702.
Mattel, you've got a question of your own?
Honest and simple question this morning, Bongs. Are you still keeping track of your grocery spend? And are you the kind of person that polices the food wastage in the home?
Yeah. Yeah. And in typical fashion, I will police things and I bought this just the other day.
Yeah.
And I get told, no, you didn't. You bought that last month.
And we kept it.
I'm like, no, but how can this be finished? No, sweetie, because you bought it. The last time you bought it was, no, it was the other. No.
It felt like the other day.
Yeah, ish.
702.
Weather.
When you're the one paying, trust me, it always feels like that. What weather will we be paying for today? A partly cloudy Friday in store for Gauteng today. Temperatures will max at 27 degrees in Johannesburg. 29 is your high in Pretoria. 26 in Vereeniging Mahikeng, maxes at 27 degrees, I beg your pardon. It's Bloemfontein that maxes at 26 degrees. Durban, partly cloudy, isolated showers and thunder showers expected there, maximum of 29 degrees. That's the same for East London and, in fact, Cape Town, 29 degrees. Gqeberha maxes at 33.
EWN Traffic.
23 after 6, a first look at the roads on this Friday. Amo?
Well, Bongani, we're off to a very busy Friday morning. We've got heavy traffic volumes already on the N3 North for different reasons. The one delay on the N3 North, this is towards Marlborough Drive, is due to an accident as well as roadworks. Delays between Linksfield Road and Marlborough Drive. And then, of course, if you're heading towards Bedford View, more traffic delays. This is between the Geldenhuys interchange and the Kiluli's turn off. There's peak time delays reported on the M1 North. This is between Boyson's Road as well as Carr Street. I'll have more traffic updates coming up. Stay tuned.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Joburg, get ready for the hottest music festival of the year, Scatterlings Music Festival. It features Java, Zex Bantwini, Sanel Musician, J Something Msaki, Jesse Clegg, and so many more, all on one stage. The Scatterlings Music Festival at Huddle Park, Johannesburg. Back-to-back hits. This is not just a lineup, it's a moment. Scatterlings Music Festival on sale from 9 April at Web Tickets. Brought to you by 702.
Start your day with Bongani Bingwa
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
24 minutes after 6 o'clock, things you need to know at this hour. At the White House, this is an interesting development. U.S. First Lady Melania Trump has stepped in. She's made a surprise public statement and she's denied any connection to sex pest Jeffrey Epstein, saying she had no relationship with him and it wasn't he who introduced her to Donald Trump. She says she has no knowledge of his crimes and was not a victim. In fact, she's urged Congress to hold public hearings so the victims can testify under oath. It raises some interesting questions because her husband, of course, if he can help it, certainly wants none of any wants no American attention paid to the Epstein saga, and it's one we're going to keep watching as it develops. As it develops. Guys, you go for 2 days and the English runs away.
Back.
As it develops. Africa Bambata, born Lance Taylor, has died at the age of 68. This is following complications due to cancer. This is, of course, that Bronx-born DJ who helped to shape hip-hop culture from block parties to global influence. Tracks like Planet Rock, collaborations with James Brown and George Clinton, also founding the Universal Zulu Nation and leaving behind a legacy celebrated for its influence. But he had some questions around sexual abuse, allegations he denied. Adam Gilchrist will tell us about this. Listen to the story. A 29-year-old man in London, his name is Enzo Contitelli. He's been jailed after stealing a handbag outside a pub. What he didn't know what was inside the handbag, a rare Fabergé egg. These are those very expensive jeweled pieces shaped like Easter eggs. A matching watch set worth about 2.2 million pounds. That's about 50 million rand. He thought he was just stealing a handbag. He's been sentenced for opportunistic theft. He even tried to use the cards belonging to the owner of the bag. We'll get more details in the World View. Have you ever said the opposite of what you meant, a slip of the tongue, like developments just now? I mean, one of the stories that has obviously gripped certainly Gauteng, but I would dare say the nation, has been that fire in Rivalry. So during a visit this week at the Rivalry Secondary School, Gauteng MEC for Education, Sports, Arts and Culture, Lebogang Maile, addressed issues around the fire. And this is what he said in response to what happened, except, as you'll no doubt pick up, he meant the opposite.
So there cannot be any justification for building of the school. But there are those few, and these are few elements. And that's why I'm saying we must isolate them, identify them, and deal with them decisively. So there cannot be any reason. And I would not even ask for a reason. For anyone to build it, I will not ask for a reason. I will not even negotiate with people who build schools because they have some grievance. That will never happen. Those are criminals. They can't
Shame, man. Look, we know what he meant. He meant to say burn schools, but he keeps saying building. And repeatedly, he makes this mistake, right? What he obviously meant burning of schools is unacceptable, but he keeps on saying building. The irony, of course, for people who need schools in Gauteng to be built. You see, Freudian slip much? Have you had a Freudian slip where you said exactly the opposite of what you meant? And I fully agree with him, by the way. This is completely unacceptable. And on this day in 1993, South Africa was holding its breath. Chris Hani assassinated outside his home in Boksburg. It was an act that triggered fears of not just national unrest, but downright civil war. And I think it took the very person and statesmanship of Nelson Mandela to avert something far more perilous.
702.
The newspapers.
Bali Dlamini?
Good morning, boss.
Look at me making mistakes in front of Mbali Dlamini.
Aibo.
Hey? My English right in front of Mbali Dlamini. What's in the papers?
It's allowed. Did you ever think you'd ever say that load shedding was a blessing in disguise?
Okay, so I was without power for about 48 hours beginning on Tuesday lunchtime.
Okay.
For some cable issue. So because I still have backup power from load shedding, yes, it was a blessing in disguise.
Blessing in disguise. And I say that because there's an article in the BBC. It's titled Hot in the City, Energy Crisis Tests Singapore's Aircon Addiction. Now, it's about nations in Asian states which now have to play catch up because of the current Middle East war. Everything is more expensive. So these are nations that didn't go green energy, backup power supplies, none of those plans. And you look at a country like South Africa where because of load shedding, a lot of us actually went, far away from this tide. And we are all ready for if a crisis comes this way or will come this way, we're ready for it. Singapore, I would think technology is all up there, but the fact that they're only implementing certain things now, it kind of interested me a lot.
And again, I suppose one of the things that I find interesting is how many of these countries transformed themselves from what they were. I mean, Singapore was once in a jungle, swampy area.
Yes.
Of course, they'd need air conditioning, and all this time they thought they could get away with what they had, and now they're finding out the hard way. If you read no other newspaper today, do buy today's Mail and Guardian, because it looks ahead to an issue that is going to have all of us really talking, certainly next week. The Malema case puts South Africa on tenterhooks. Remember, of course, Julius Malema was found guilty in the East London Magistrates Court. Sentencing happens next week. How will the EFF, how will South Africa react?
EWN Business.
Muteo, you're asking us about keeping track on the prices of the things we buy. We have this running joke in my house where they say, Ipelile, tenga, tenga, tenga. And I'm like, no, it can't be finished. Can't be finished. What prompts that question?
Bongani, the cost of basic household food baskets increased from approximately 4,051 Rand a month in January of 2021 to around 5,401 Rand by January of 2026. The price to fill up your pantry has creeped up by more than 1,350 Rand in the past 5 years. Now, the Pietermaritzburg Economic Justice and Dignity Group has asked the South African Human Rights Commission to investigate how rising food prices, lower wages, and climbing costs of essential services are undermining the constitutional right of low-income households to access sufficient food. Now, the group compiles the household food basket, doing a survey of the prices of 44 basic food items from 47 supermarkets and 32 butcheries from all around the country. Now, according to the figures for March, the average cost of the household food basket decreased slightly by 55 Rand to 5,328 Rand for a grocery basket, which is already quite high. And with the oil prices going up and inflation expected to peak, there is some interest from analysts to say that people will now be focusing on house brands instead of the well-known, more expensive brands when they shop.
So we use Rand to buy that grocery basket?
Sure thing.
How much do we have?
Weaker this morning, 16 Rand 39 against the US dollar, 19 Rand 19 cents against the euro, and a 22 Rand 3 cents against the British pound. Price of gold at $4,765 an ounce, while platinum is down 2.5% at $2,063. Brent crude up 1% at $96 a barrel. More business after 7.
Straight to the news desk we go. Mbali Dlamini keeping an eye on the chief.
Thanks, Bongani. A very good morning. Well, Parliament's new committee on the presidency has raised concern over how it should be measuring the results of the growing number of councils, task teams and advisory bodies established in that office. After a 2-day strategic planning session as to how it will be beginning its work, the committee has resolved to start by calling the presidency to explain its operations. Chairperson Doris Mbapane says the presidency's role across departments makes it difficult to determine who should be accountable for the results. Lindsay Dendlinger has more.
The committee says it has received presentations from academics to help guide it on how it should tackle its new oversight role. Chairperson Doris Mbapane says a robust and clearly defined approach is needed to exercise oversight over the many bodies that have been established by the presidency.
It raises concern about the application, coherence, cost and measurable impact with limited consolidated oversight.
Asked whether the committee might have to grapple with the Constitutional Court judgment on how Parliament has dealt with an impeachment report on President Cyril Ramaphosa, Mbapane had this to say.
That matter of the Section 89 is with the relevant institutions, and we must allow those institutions to do their work.
Mbapane says only once the committee has had its first meeting with the presidency will it decide on its strategic plan and program. Lindsay Dentlinger, Eyewitness News, Parliament.
An Eastern Cape man linked to the rape and murder of a 7-year-old girl in Cotswold, Gqeberha, will apply for bail next week. Clive Smith made his first appearance in the East London Magistrates Court yesterday. He was nabbed on Tuesday after the girl's body was found at a dumping site. The accused was linked to the crime after witness statements that he was the last person seen with the child. NPA spokesperson Luxolo Kyali.
45-year-old Clive Smith appeared in the KwaGombo City Magistrate Court. He is charged with murder and kidnapping. He will appear again on Monday, 13th April, for possible bail application.
The Johannesburg Stock Exchange is urging South Africans to come forward if they suspect they may have unclaimed investments. It says currently there is at least 4.5 billion rand that exists in unclaimed investments. The Stock Exchange has launched a new WhatsApp channel called Claim It that will allow potential beneficiaries to register their details and verify their banking information directly from their mobile phones. The JSC's Vuyo Lee says the funds are often linked to dormant accounts or forgotten investments.
There are many reasons why someone could have unclaimed dividends, such as old banking details, old addresses, or beneficiaries of deceased estates, which makes it difficult to trace these shareholders and owners of dividends.
And US President Donald Trump has accused Iran of doing a poor job of allowing oil through the Strait of Hormuz. Trump has also accused Iran of breaching the terms of their 2-week ceasefire agreement. The US President took to his social media site, Truth Social, where he also warned Iran against imposing a toll for ships passing through the crucial waterway. As part of a ceasefire agreement, the two countries agreed the strait would be reopened to allow movement of oil supplies. According to maritime tracking data, just 10 vessels have passed through since the Middle East war ceasefire took effect. A partly cloudy Friday in store for Gauteng today. Lows of between 13 and 15 degrees and highs of between 26 and 29.
And in the traffic, we've got heavy delays on the N3 North, in fact, bumper-to-bumper traffic between the Yelands Interchange and Marlborough Drive. This is due to different reasons. We've got an accident right near Marlborough Drive, and then there's also roadworks that are taking place along the same route. So please be patient if you're traveling along this route and expect about a 20-minute hold-up.
The top story in EWN, Parliament's new committee on the presidency has raised concern over how it should be measuring the results of the growing number of councils, task teams and advisory bodies established in that office.
702 Drive with John Perlman.
My show is about keeping our listeners company in the last part of the day in the most interesting and entertaining way that we possibly can. So the crucial thing for us is we've got to provide them with a mix. The news, yes, the big stories, of course, but we've got to talk about other things that make them laugh, make them think about things they've never thought about, and most important, that invite them to have a conversation with us. What I love about the 702 family and 702 land. First of all, I should just say people never stop surprising me. And the thing that is perhaps the thing I love the most is people manage to find things that make them laugh. And they don't laugh from a place of ridicule. They laugh from a place of deep humanity, because our ability to laugh has got us through so much over these many decades, and we're going to need it plenty in the decades to come.
702 Drive with John Perlman, weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m.
Evolution doesn't wait. Introducing the Changan Uni S. Unexpected, unmistakable, uncompromising. Engineered to a higher standard, unlike anything in its class. Unsurprising really from China's oldest automaker. Trusted by 13 million drivers worldwide. Visit changanmotors.co.za for more. The Changan Uni S.
Changan, driven to evolve.
We at Monument Dental are very happy with the premium we're paying. I wish I did it sooner.
Outsurance business insurance clients know that it pays to switch. And did you know you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium when you switch? For dentistries, general medical practices, and all other businesses, get a quote today and see why it pays to switch to Outsurance business insurance. Visit outsurance.co.za or call 08600 60,000 today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
Mzansi, be in it to win it when you play Powerball Plus for an estimated 63 million rand jackpot this Friday. You heard right. Play Powerball Plus for an estimated 63 million rand jackpot today for your chance at endless possibilities. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app or cell phone banking. Panda, Pusha, play. Players must be 18 years old or play responsibly. Ituba is a proud operator of the National Lottery.
Coming up in the next hour, What's the Question? It's brought to you by Outsurance. 3,000 Rand in cash is up for grabs. You send us an answer based on something you heard on the show that piqued your interest. For that, you win 1,000 Rand. Simply WhatsApp us your name and the answer to 072 702 1702. Then later, someone will ask a question to get to your answer and they will win 2,000 Rand. Now, you always stand a better chance of being selected if you have SMS'd out to Outsurance to get yourself a quote. SMS out to 45142 now. You could save on your car insurance.
702.
WhatsApp Bongani on 072
702 1702.
Good morning, Bongani and the team. This is Azaria from Omonde. There used to be a radio presenter. He's a white guy, but he called himself, his stage name was Shoni B. So Shoni B, the other day he played that song by Letambulu, Hareje. Ne? So when he was introducing the song, he said Hareje. I mean, it's opposite of Hareji. Hareji means we are not eating. We're not eating. And he says Hareje, let's eat. So it was a fun moment.
Morning and welcome, Bongani. There was this other person posted rest in peace to one member of his family. Instead of saying condolences, I don't know what happened, then mistakenly typed congratulations. So it happens to the best of us. Great show as always. Thank you.
Thank you. We're talking, Shem, about the slip-up made by Lebohang Maile, the freshly minted MEC of Education, and a number of other portfolios in Gauteng. He was responding to that fire at the Rivalry school earlier in the week, and he spoke with great indignation. Anthony, the building of schools is unacceptable. There'll be no justification for building schools. And he kept repeating, shame. He meant burning, of course, and we know that. It's a Friday. Let's have a bit of fun with it. Have you said something, a slip of the tongue, and you meant the very opposite of what you said?
EWN Sport.
I've told the story before of my biology teacher, such as it was. I think they call it life sciences now, right? It was biology in my day. Was explaining about organisms and their beginnings. And except she said a word she didn't mean to. And yeah, you can imagine 15-year-olds hearing a word like that from a teacher.
35-year-old, I would still laugh at that.
Listen, defending a Masters golf title is no laughing matter.
It isn't indeed, but Rory McIlroy has started off very well in that title defense with the share of the lead alongside Sam Burns after they both carded a 5-under par 67, 2 shots clear of the field. The Northern Irishman also carding the third lowest opening round by a reigning champ and says it was partly due to him finally completing that career Grand Slam.
And I think the thing for me over the last 10 years here was I was trying to win the Masters, but I was also chasing the Grand Slam. It was the two things that it really sort of teed up on the first tee today and not have that. I still felt nerves. I still felt the anxiety that I always feel when I tee it up here for the first time. But I just feel like I settled into the round really nicely.
2011 winner Charles Schwartzel is 3 over par, Casey Jarvis 2 back, and the remaining South African in the field, Adric Potgieter, is a dead last as well. In football, Andy Robertson will be leaving Anfield at the end of the season, becoming the second Liverpool legend after Mohamed Salah to announce their exit this season. Since joining from Hull City, the fullback has made 373 appearances, winning 2 Premier League titles, a UEFA Champions League, an FA Cup, and 2 League Cups.
It's never easy leaving a club like Liverpool. You know, it's been a huge part of mine and my family's life for the last 9 years. But I know football moves on. I know teams move on and things like that. And I think now's the time for me to move on. And I'll always look back on amazing memories at this football club. I've put my heart and soul into the club for 9 years. And when I got my chance, I just wanted to make the people within this club and the supporters proud.
On the field in the Europa League last night, Ollie Watkins fired a brace as Bologna were beaten 3-1 by Aston Villa in the first leg of their quarter-final, while it's 1-1 for Nottingham Forest and Porto. In the Conference League, Crystal Palace won their quarter-final first leg 3-0 over Fiorentina, and in cricket, Aidan Markram's Lucknow Super Giants secured a 3-wicket victory over KKR in the IPL on the very last ball as they were chasing 182. Anthony Teixeira, Eyewitness News Sport.
The brainy kids of the Whiz Quiz
on 702.
Morning, Uncle Bongani. My name is Koketo. I go to Large School Rachel de Pierre Primary School. I am 11 years old. When I grow up, I want to be a soccer player. And I'm excited to play the Whiz Quiz today.
We're excited to play with you too today. 10,000 Rand is up for grabs.
Hi, morning, Bongani. You remember, we have to check if you have got more blood in your alcohol.
702.
Coming up at 7:15, the big interview.
EWN Traffic.
It's 6:45 on the nose. This EWN Traffic brought to you by Outsurance. SMS out to 45142 now. You could save on your car insurance. If you don't, ask them for 500 Rand. What's going on the N3? Are there delays there, yeah?
Heavy traffic volumes, Bongani. This is between the Airlines Interchange and the Marlborough Drive. That's due to multiple reasons, peak time delays, roadworks, and now we've got an accident reported right near Marlborough Drive. It's causing these massive queues. Do expect about a 20-minute hold-up. If you are traveling in Houghton, we've got delays on the Mike 1 North right at the Killarney Bends coming out of Houghton Drive. Please be on the lookout there. There's also queuing traffic reported on the N1 North between Malibongwe Drive and Winnie Mandela Drive. I'll have more updates coming up. Stay tuned.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Things people stress about in traffic. Number 49. What's that random warning light that keeps popping up on my car's dashboard? Oh, the mystery. Well, with the Outsurance pointsman on your route, at least the traffic is one less thing to stress about. The Outsurance pointsmen have been easing traffic congestion so we all get to where we need to be quickly and safely for the past 20 years. With Outsurance, you really always get something out. In partnership with 702, Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP.
Part of the 702 family.
Hi, my name is Linda. I'm from Bel Air Park. I'm a 702 lander, big fan of all the shows, and I'm definitely listening today, and I'll definitely be listening tomorrow.
Welcome to our 702 family. Let's walk the talk.
The future of business starts with a bold conversation. As a WeWork member, you get a front row seat. Introducing the WeWork Future of Work series, globally progressive, high-energy talk sessions happening every month inside WeWork Sandton and Rosebank. From adaptive leadership to AI workflows, connect with disruptive speakers and thinkers shaping business today. Become a WeWork member and register for the next WeWork Future of Work series. Details at wework.co.za. WeWork, made for work, built for business.
Hi, this is Carol Shabalala, Hollywood Bets brand ambassador. It's more fun when it's for fun. Playing responsibly is always a winning strategy. If you or someone you know needs help, call the South African Responsible Gambling toll-free counseling line on 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp help to 076 675 0710. Hollywood Sportsbook is a licensed betting operator. Hollywood Bet supports responsible gambling. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop.
Looking to upgrade your office furniture this year? Desk and Chair, the direct office furniture manufacturer, has a deal you don't want to miss. Get 5% cash back towards your existing office furniture with all purchases over 350,000 Rand. Contact Desk and Chair now for more info. Visit our newly renovated showroom in Midrand or shop online at deskandchair.co.za. Desk and Chair. Think, feel, work better. T's and C's apply.
702 Drive with John Perlman.
My show is about keeping our listeners company in the last part of the day in the most interesting and entertaining way that we possibly can. So the crucial thing for us is we've got to provide them with a mix. The news, yes, the big stories, of course, but we've got to talk about other things that make them laugh, make them think about things they've never thought about, and most important, that invite them to have a conversation with us. What I love about the 702 family and 702 land. First of all, I should just say people never stop surprising me. And the thing that is perhaps the thing I love the most is people manage to find things that make them laugh. And they don't laugh from a place of ridicule. They laugh from a place of deep humanity, because our ability to laugh has got us through so much over these many decades, and we're going to need it plenty in the decades to come.
702 Drive with John Perlman. Weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m. Let's talk.
We're listening.
Good morning, Bongani. Bongani, you know, the 17 million that they were talking about, you know, in procurement, that's where the most corruption is. Procurement. Bongani, I will never work in procurement, even if I don't have a job. Not because I'm not capable, but because they will steal on your behalf without you knowing. You will find clever people there who've been doing this thing forever, and they will steal on your behalf. They will steal with your name without you knowing. You will find yourself in Madlanga explaining things that you don't know. Of course, those who are in Madlanga now, they are corrupt as proven that they are corrupt. But procurement is the most corrupt, especially in government. It's the most corrupt. I will never work there. Never.
I worry that some of those who are being accused have turned out to be not very clever to begin with.
Who is the whizziest of them all?
It's the Whiz Quiz on 702.
Up next, we look at the Persian Gulf situation with Dr. Terence McNamee. But in the meantime, let's give away some cash, shall we? Koketso is 11 years old, goes to Laer School Rachel de Beer Primary School, and wants to play for 10,000 Rand. Koketso, are you ready?
Yes.
Yes. You're going to have to speak up a little bit louder than that. Make sure we can hear you. There we go. That's how to do it. KG, start the clock. Which planet is closest to the sun?
Mars.
Mercury. Which public holiday falls on the 21st of March?
Pass.
Human Rights Day. In what sport do teams play for the Currie Cup?
Hockey.
Rugby. True or false? The shortest month in a leap year has only 28 days.
True.
It's false. 29 days. Which small organs in the human body are affected by cataracts?
Pass.
Eyes. Which marine animal is also known as a killer whale? Is it orcas or the blue whale?
Orcas.
Correct. Which is the largest land animal?
Giraffe.
The African elephant. What is 10 times 11?
20. 110.
110 is indeed the correct answer. Not the easiest of rounds for you, I'm afraid, Koketo, but you do walk away with something. 200 Rand. That's what you get in today's Whiz Quiz.
The Brainy Kids of the Whiz Quiz.
On 702.
702.
The Political Desk.
Open the effing Strait of Hormuz, or I will destroy an entire civilization. So began the week as the President of the United States threatened to bomb Iran back to the Stone Age after more than a month of war. 48 hours, it seems, is a long time in geopolitics because as matters stand, the Strait of Hormuz is still being controlled by the Iranians, who are toting any ships they allow passage. U.S. ally Israel has continued to rage against neighbor Lebanon in a sustained aerial campaign, and the Iranians are targeting Gulf countries in retaliation. And so, has the needle shifted at all? Terence McNamee is a global affairs specialist and senior fellow at the Montreal Institute of Global Security in Canada, and always a pleasure to have you on the show. A very good morning to you.
Hi, good morning, Bongani.
So, I want to know firstly, how did you react to that profanity-laden post by Trump? Was it, his typical bluster, or a man clearly panicking, if not even unstable, as some of his critics would now suggest?
Yeah, I think the latter is probably more accurate, Bongani. Even by his standards, that tweet sent shockwaves around the world for a number of reasons. Obviously, to threaten to do that is a clear violation of international law and a war crime, obviously, if he had acted upon it in terms of attacking civilian infrastructure. But I think it did reflect a tremendous frustration that he has found himself in this very invidious position. And I don't think he's quite sure how he can get out of it and legitimately claim a strategic victory.
We understood that there was a ceasefire that had been agreed to. Certainly the Americans seemed to think so. But of course, now with Israel continuing to attack Lebanon, Iran has also attacked some of the Gulf countries. I'm thinking that oil installation in Saudi Arabia. So is there a ceasefire?
Well, there is chaos, there is confusion. There are very highly contested interpretations of what was agreed upon. And I think in the next 24 hours, 48 hours, we're going to have some more clarity. But this is obviously a very perilous situation for the region and for the world in many ways. And I think that, the idea that Pakistan is kind of coming to the rescue in this situation, a country that doesn't even recognize the state of Israel, is really, really extraordinary. But there's a lot of reporting going on, a lot of heat, but not much light. So I think we probably have to hold fire in terms of any kind of definitive assessments of what's going on, because let's face it, there's a tremendous amount of uncertainty and confusion at the moment.
The two leaders at the center of this bromance, Trump and Netanyahu, are viewed by some as not having achieved any of the aims they stated at the start of this. And now we have, for the first time, a majority of Americans, according to polling, who now have a negative view of the state of Israel.
Yeah, so Prime Minister Netanyahu tried to convince President Bush Jr. to attack Iran. He tried to convince Obama of the same thing, and he tried to convince Biden. All three of those U.S. presidents said no. And in part, they said no because of what we're witnessing now. It unleashes a whole set of unintended consequences. But as the New York Times recently reported, it seems that this time President Trump was persuaded about whether it was the necessity or he could achieve a quick victory like he did in Venezuela. But on your point about the United States and Israel, it's very, very important to recognize that Trump came to power very much on the back of the right-wing media. And of course, all of these social media influencers that really rallied the MAGA base. And there's no doubt there has been something of a sea change in the last few months. And, personalities like Tucker Carlson and Meg Kelly and Alex Jones, all of these people would seem to be turning very much away from Israel, in part because Israel is seen as dragging the United States into these foreign entanglements, which was exactly anathema to what MAGA and America First was all about. So yes, I think you're correctly identifying that this is a serious moment for the U.S.-Israeli relationship, and I'm not quite sure how they're going to get that back on track.
Not least because the Iranians could be argued to have more now than they did at the start of this in terms of their direct control of the strait and deciding who gets through and how much they pay as a result of it. Looking at a more broader picture, the Chinese had an interesting reaction to that post by Donald Trump. We saw both China and Russia veto a Security Council vote on the strait. In fact, China's envoy to the UN said adopting such a draft, as proposed by Bahrain, when the US was threatening the survival of a civilization, would send the wrong message.
Yeah, a very interesting point, Bongani. So if you're China and you're sitting back and watching this, there's two big wins. The first one is that, again, China looks like the adult in the room. It looks like the only kind of superpower rational actor. I mean, this is a time where I can't recall that the United States has ever been less trusted by both its allies and its rivals. And the second thing is the lesson from Iran's choking off the Strait of Hormuz and its impact on the global economy is, of course, Taiwan. Look at the power that China could exert if it executed a blockade on Taiwan. I mean, that would be far more disruptive to the global economy, because then in an instant you would wipe out a third of the microchips, because about a third of them are manufactured in factories in Taiwan, and that impact would be much more than oil. It would be on computers, it would be on cars. I mean, so China must be sitting back and just going, "Wow, let's just let the United States make more of a mess of it." And, they just have to really sit back.
Don't interrupt your rival whilst making a mistake, our president has famously said, which brings us to the new U.S. ambassador here in South Africa very quickly, Dr. McNamee. I mean, he's striking a more conciliatory tone with his host country. Is that his own independent thinking based on the realities he's now seeing on the ground now that he is here, or are we seeing some kind of rapprochement between the union buildings and the White House?
No, I think it has much more to do with him as a person. If you remember, I think I mentioned on this program even a year ago that let's just wait till he arrives. Don't prejudge him. And it's clear that he is he's a reflective person. He's a very engaging person. I think where the risk is, what I'm observing so far, is that, the media may want to question him every opportunity they get. And the ambassador has got to watch himself that he doesn't get drawn into yet another debate or another internal South African issue like he did over the Kill the Boer song. But I think it's promising. I mean, there's no doubt that there is a possibility of arresting the slide because this ambassador seems open to it. I mean, he's clearly not a MAGA stooge. The extent to which this opportunity can be seized upon by both sides, I mean, I think that's an open question.
Well, we'll keep inviting him if he's listening. We'll go easy on him, I promise. Dr. Terence McNamee, appreciate your time as always with this week's Political Desk.
7:02.
Coming up, the big interview.
Where does the South African story begin? With a docking of a ship, a Dutch ship in the Cape, or much earlier? And who gets to tell it? That's coming up next.
This is EWN.
Suspended Chukudu Malachi admits he did not listen to his superiors, and a Christian activist group is unhappy with assisted dying legal bid. Good morning, I'm Bali Dlamini. Suspended Director of Tshwane's Asset Protection Security Unit, Chukudu Malachi, has admitted to ignoring an instruction from his superior to cancel dubious contractual work awarded to private security companies. This was despite the fact that the contracts were costing the city millions of rands. Chukudu testified at the Madlanga Commission yesterday on the corruption that took place within his unit. Thabiso Koba has more.
Tshwane's Asset Protection Security Unit works with private companies to guard some of the city's critical infrastructure. When Deputy Chief Rivo Spies took over the unit, he noticed it was exceeding its allocated budget. This was due to security companies being awarded unnecessary ad hoc work and in turn invoicing the city millions of rands. Spies then sends an email to Director Chukudu Malachi to stop all ad hoc work. However, Malachi did not follow through.
So you did not comply with this instruction in its entirety?
Yes, because this instruction, in my view, was inclusive of those that did not have a problem. I'm aware that the commissioner is saying, what about this that were allocated irregularly? I think there I had an oversight.
Malachi has been suspended from his job with full pay and benefits since July last year. Thabiso Koba, Eyewitness News.
Trade Union Federation COSATU has raised concerns about public servants being excluded from receiving rewards for whistleblowing. Yesterday, Justice Minister Mameloko Kubai released the Protected Disclosure Bill to address the gaps in existing legislation on whistleblowers. Deputy Minister Andri Snell then explained that according to the bill, whistleblowers will not be awarded upfront rewards but could receive up to 25% of the monetary sanction imposed on a convicted employer. But he has explained that there are categories of people who are excluded from receiving such a reward.
The first is someone who's in the public service. Secondly, someone contemplated in Section 34 of the Prevention and Combating of Corrupt Activities Act. Someone who provided such information as part of a plea agreement, or someone who is an accomplice in respect of the offence.
But COSATU's Matthew Parks says public servants being excluded is a flaw in the bill.
This is a fundamental flaw, as many public servants, in particular junior staff, are very vulnerable to victimization. Equally, junior public procurement staff often have invaluable information about wrongdoing by senior management and service providers. Their intelligence is key to securing successful prosecutions. Their protection and rewarding are key to incentivizing them to take risks to their careers, lives, and families by exposing corruption.
Public advocacy group The Christian View Network has criticized a legal challenge launched by Dignity South Africa to have medically assisted death declared legal. Dignity SA filed an application in the Pretoria High Court yesterday, arguing that current legislation related to medically assisted death is unconstitutional. But Christian View's Network Director Philip Rosenthal has raised concern about a lack of safeguards, warning that the legal challenge could create a slippery slope for euthanasia on demand.
Changing the definition of murder to some currently undefined subjective amount of suffering where the witness is gone would make it harder to prosecute the crime of murder. Hopefully, the Pretoria High Court will throw this case out.
But Dignity's SA co-founder Willem Landman has responded to Rothendal.
My response will be that we are living in a constitutional democracy and that people should have that choice in terms of our constitution and that others should accept that and grant them that choice.
While the Gauteng High Court is now awaiting answering affidavits from the state before legal proceedings commence in this matter. And Israel and Lebanon are expected to hold talks in Washington next week to try and find mutual ground. The talks come as concern continues to mount internationally that Israel's bombing campaign could shatter an already fragile US-Iran ceasefire. According to AFP, the announcement came as Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu ordered his ministers to seek direct talks with Lebanon. The talks would be focused on disarming Iran-backed Hezbollah. Neither Israel nor Lebanon have publicly confirmed the US talks for next week. Lebanon has not been included in the two-week truce agreed to by the US and Iran despite international pressure. Meanwhile, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres condemned the killing of more than 200 people in the latest Israeli attacks on Beirut and other parts of Lebanon on Wednesday. Stefan Dujarric is Guterres' spokesperson.
With the announcements of the ceasefire between Iran and the United States, the ongoing military activity in Lebanon poses a grave risk to the ceasefire and efforts towards a lasting and comprehensive peace in the region.
Gold is trading at $4,745.89 an ounce. The rand is at 16.47 to the dollar, 22.03 to the pound, 19.21 to the euro, and Brent crude oil is at $96.48 a barrel.
And in the traffic, we've got an accident in Pennyville. It happened right near Main Reef Road. It's causing heavy traffic volumes coming out of the N17 bridge. Please be on the lookout there and approach with care. While traveling on the Mike 1 North, we've got delays between Boyson's Road and Carr Street. This is due to peak time delays.
And in your sport, McElroy and Burns are co-leaders after the first round at Augusta. CAF President Patrice Motsepe rejecting accusations of corruptions that have been made by Senegal after that shock decision to strip them of the AFCON title and award it to Morocco. And Yannick Sinner and Carlos Alcaraz both advanced to the quarterfinals of the Monte Carlo Masters.
A partly cloudy Friday in store for Gauteng today. Lows of between 13 and 15 degrees and highs of between 26 and 29. The top story in EWN this hour, suspended director of Tswane's Asset Protection Security Unit, Chukudu Malaji, has admitted to ignoring an instruction from his superior to cancel dubious contracts.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
From the townships to the suburbs and everywhere in between, it's the 702 MTN Small Business Awards. Enter now on Prime Media Plus. Let's talk shop.
This is Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa
On 702.
Let's walk the talk.
9 minutes after 7 o'clock, you're listening to 702 Breakfast on this Friday morning. I don't know if you've been keeping up with the latest from the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry, particularly the corruption that's allegedly been taking place in the capital. The thing that has struck me quite often with so many of these witnesses is their absolute indifference to the staggering amounts of public money that is unaccounted for. They're nonchalant. They couldn't be bothered in some cases, as they explain. So at issue here, as you've just heard in Eyewitness News, were various sites around the capital, which the city issued multi-million rand tenders to secure. These are various installations, and they wanted security to be provided for them. We don't want vandalism. We don't want them to be attacked. We don't want them to be at risk in any way. That makes sense. But part of the question that has been raised is that until these tenders had been issued, there'd been no threats to those facilities. Yes, maybe we don't wait until they are. Fine. But the city had no knowledge of these companies and whether or not they'd ever provided the security they were receiving millions for. And the head of asset protection, this is the person who would have known what should be protected and by whom, had no clue. Listen to his response when he's questioned about 17 million rand a month. A month! Have a listen.
But I'm asking you about these ones. Why did you not cancel these ones? Because with these ones, you can't say they were previously allocated correctly. The email tells you that there are additionals from January and February. And your chief of police, Chief Faro, says there's no budget for this. There's no money. And this is 17 million every month.
Commissioner, I agree. Like I previously said, that it has been an oversight on my part. Commissioner, please allow me to go and revisit this communication, because here we're dealing with one-sided side of the story. And as to whether I responded to this instruction, how I responded, the commission is kept in the dark. I'm not implying that somebody might have done it to hide information, but I'm saying, as far as this is concerned, can the commissioner allow me to go and check as to what were my reasons for not carrying out the instruction immediately, if any?
See, at this point, it had been identified that there was a problem, and he was instructed to cancel these tenders because there was simply no money for them. He didn't. Now he's being told, why did you not do as you were told? Let me go check. Do you see what I mean? The absolute disregard for what's at stake here. Let me play some more. This is now Commissioner Baloyi, who's now asking about 14 million rand in irregular expenditure related to security services. And again, what do we get from Chukwudi Malach, the head of asset protection at Tshwane Metro Police Department? Have a listen.
Had your department and PIRI not issued a deployment letter, would there be an obligation on the department on the city, in fact, to pay for services that are done when Gubis doesn't have a deployment letter?
The answer is yes, Commissioner. Yes, Commissioner. Yes. Right? Because the information which I do not have at my disposal now, right? But I'll talk to that information. For the information of the Commissioner, is that the department instructed Gubis to deploy security, ad hoc security services on sites that they have identified.
Yeah, we've just spoken to Terence McNamee about the situation in the Gulf. And one of the developments that you have to keep an eye on is what is unfolding in Lebanon as Israeli strikes on that country continue. Ostensibly, the Israelis say they're targeting Hezbollah, the militant group that is fighting for the Palestinians based in Lebanon and, of course, supported by Iran. And so often you hear of airstrikes and a bombing there, but we don't always get the picture of the lives that are destroyed. Sky News' Alex Crawford is an international correspondent I've interviewed on this show and elsewhere, and I want you to listen to her reporting from Beirut about the absolute devastation in that city.
This is central Beirut. It's a really densely populated area. There's lots of residential buildings around as well as business areas. The particular building that you're seeing right in front was about a 4 or 5 story block of offices and businesses, parking and garages leveled now. Absolutely nothing. We can see all around, though, that all the residential areas have also been affected. They reckon that they've pulled out about 15 bodies from under the rubble. They don't appear to be looking for any more. A number of people around here have lost relatives or who are still trying to find relatives. And people have gone into the surrounding block and are trying to recover what they can, dusting off their windowsills, pulling out bits of broken furniture and glass. And you can see just one blast. This is one of more than 100, not just in Beirut, but in Bekaa and in the south of Lebanon, which has hit one particular area, but devastated and caused a huge amount of destruction all around.
There are people's lives at stake.
This is Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa
on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
This day in history, the RMS Titanic set out from Southampton on its maiden voyage, a moment defined by confidence in that ship that even God couldn't sink. The Great Gatsby, published by F. Scott Fitzgerald, received modest attention at first, but in 1925 is when it was published on this day, and it became one of the most studied novels in all English literature. It was my matric set work, if I remember correctly. And happy birthday to Kenneth Babyface Edmonds, born on this day. He turns all of 67. He's a legendary hitmaker behind some of R&B's biggest songs.
702. Up next,
The Big Interview.
EWN Traffic.
Up next, a discussion on history. Where does ours begin and how does it get to be told? That's going to be a fascinating conversation, but a quick traffic update brought to you by Outsurance. SMS out to 45142 now, and you could save on your car insurance. If you don't, ask them for 500 Rand. Amma, what's happening in Pennyville? There was a crash there, wasn't there?
There still is, Bongani. It's right on New Canada Road. It's causing heavy traffic volumes towards Main Reef Road. Please be on the lookout there and approach with care. And do expect about a 20-minute hold up. If this is your usual route to try and avoid the traffic on the N1 North, then you will be stuck for traffic for about 20 minutes there. If you are traveling on the N1 North, we also have got delays between the New Canada N17 exit and Albertina Sisulu off-ramp. More updates coming up. Stay tuned.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
You may or may not know the difference between a timing belt and a timing chain. But you do know a great Outsurance deal when you see one, right? Well, get a car insurance quote now, and if Outsurance can't save you money, you can ask them for 500 Rand or 1,500 Rand if you've been claim-free with the same insurer for 3 years. Get savings or cash. SMS out to 45142. That's out to 45142. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's, and information online.
702.
The Big Interview
With Bongani Bingwa.
Here's a fascinating conversation. Where does the South African story begin? And when? Was it with the docking of 3 Dutch ships at the Cape in 1652? Or do you go to slightly earlier, when the Portuguese circumnavigated the African continent for the first time? Or does it go back to even earlier, the Bantu migration? What then of the San and the Khoikhoi, who'd been at the tip of the continent for millennia? Whose history is it anyway? We're often told history is written by the victors, and it almost always is a political choice to determine a particular narrative. Well, the Department of Basic Education is proposing wholesale changes to its history curriculum, and they want to focus on an African-centered perspective rather than a European one. So in school, gone are studies on the US civil rights, the French Revolution, and even the Anglo-Boer War. And come in African ancient empires from Mali to Mapungubwe, and the stories of the 20th century liberation movements. And as you might expect, there are those who disagree. So we've got 2 guests this morning, the Department of Basic Education spokesperson Terence Kala, and also Professor Siseko Khumalo, who is from the University of Johannesburg. A very good morning to you both, and thank you for your time. Terence Kala, I'll start with you because correct me if I made any mistakes in my introduction about what is being proposed, and kindly explain to us what these wide-ranging changes may mean. Good morning.
Bongani, good morning to yourself, and good morning to the good prof, as well as all of the listeners of 702. Bongani, thank you very much. I think what's important for us to underscore is that nothing in the proposal is final. I think the first departure point for us as a department is to indicate that we're looking at wholesale content coverage, historical framing, as well as assessment design as well. I think it's important for us to also underscore the fact that this has been an ongoing process since 2019. I think first it was began by the former Minister of Basic Education with a series of consultations that took place in 2023 and 2024. But I think what's important to underscore is that this review process seeks to gain insights from all of the various stakeholders within the basic education sector to ensure that what has been put forward is actually something that can be ratified, sent forward, and actually begin to start cascading within our schools.
So as the proposals stand now, am I correct in saying gone would be studies on the US Civil Rights Movement, the French Revolution, and even the Anglo-Boer War?
Well, I mean, there are a series of core focuses that we're taking. I think obviously it's about historical inquiry and evidence, and I think interpretation of sources and critical engagement with the past. So that's what we seek to do. I think it's important to look at also the framing of the content scope, Bongani, so that at least it covers and gives the public a good understanding of where the department seeks to go. I think we're looking at elements around ancient and modern history, obviously looking at African and world history. We need to review, obviously, the archaeological and material cultures as well. And I think it's important, Bongani, that, as mentioned, nothing in the proposal is final. I think there's 3 proposals that have been made for amendments. It's grades 4 to 6. grades 7 to 9 as well as grades 10 to 12. And I think it's important that we engage with the content so that we can review it adequately.
Look, I'm really not fighting with you, I promise. I just want to know, as far as that specific question is concerned, I get your wider framing of the context, but are you saying to me South African learners will no longer study the Anglo-Boer War, for example? Is that correct?
It is one of the proposals that have been made, Bongani. I think what's important, as mentioned, is that we need to review it critically.
Sure. No. I understand why. I'm just saying that's gone. Is that a fact, as things stand now?
Well, as it stands now, it's under review, Bongani. It's something that is being looked at and being proposed for amendment so that we can be able to then make sure that, as mentioned,
okay, no, I really am not fighting with you, so please don't. I just wanted to make sure I had that fact right, because that made my eye pop a little. Look, I mean, I mentioned earlier that history is a critical skill, I think, because students of history are required to examine sources, reference material, interpret facts. I can't think of a better foundation for post-matric academic learning. Am I understanding also that the subject is to be made compulsory all the way to grade 12?
That's what the proposal does suggest, Bongani, so that at least we can be able to make sure that we bring proper context within the basic education space and help our learners adequately understand the reviews from back to front. So making sure that history is part of the learning of all of our children within South Africa, indeed.
All right,
particularly
all right, my other guest who's listening to us is Professor Siseko Khumalo from the University of Johannesburg, and he's somebody who knows how these things work. Professor Khumalo, I don't know if you've seen any of these proposals, and perhaps let's start with your broad assessment of what is being proposed.
Good morning, Bongani, as well as to our good colleague from the department and to the listeners. In terms of my own sentiment with respect to the broad proposals that are being made, I'm cautious, to say the least, for a number of reasons. As our colleague has indicated, at the moment these are proposals, and so nothing has yet been finalized or set in stone, and public participation is being requested both by the DBE as well as various government structures in order for the public to basically say, do we want to go in this direction or not? I suppose reticence stems from the function of history in the basic school curriculum, basic education curriculum, which is to say that in the first instance, it needs to expose our learners, yes, to South African history, but more importantly, to also create critical citizens who are aware of global discourses. So I would suggest that if, for example, South Africa, through this consultation process, decides to eliminate some of those various themes that you were talking about within the curriculum, we would actually be driving ourselves, or we would be shooting ourselves in the foot and driving towards an edge. Why do I say that? It's because it would create a very insular citizenry for us, both for those who are coming into the higher education space, but for example, for individuals who are also going into the PSET space, that would be the TVET colleges as well as into learnerships, who have been subjected to a historiographical curriculum that necessarily only tells a quote-unquote South African or Afrocentric, Afrocentric history. So my own is, I think, to raise a bit of some caution rather around the decisions that the public makes in this public consultation process, precisely because we want to have individuals who are critically aware of our history, but also who are globally aware of global discourses.
Prof. Khumalo, your colleague from Stellenbosch, Professor Jonathan Jansen, is a lot more straightforward about this. He says this is anti-intellectual, it's soul-deadening. He says this is African essentialism, and it ignores other African histories, for example. I mean, I suppose the real issue here is, can you package history neatly in terms of good guys and bad guys? Because one of the things that is now clear is that there was much conquest on the continent itself. There was intra-African imperialism, if you will, lots of destabilization, lots of displacement within the continent, and that this isn't exclusively the preserve of European conquerors.
100%. And in fact, I would concur with Professor Janssen precisely because of the function of history within the basic education space, which is to say that if we go in the direction of only prioritizing the South African story, we limit our learners from an appreciation of the complexity that is the human experience, which is what I think Prof. Janssen is driving at when he says that it is anti-intellectual and fundamentally essentialism. And this is, I think, for me, the caution, as I say, to the South African public, because it is our decision at the end of the day. The DBE is going to make final decisions on the basis of how the consultation processes unfold and are then concluded. So it's ours then as academics and intellectuals to point out what are the dangers in telling a single-sided story, in telling, quote-unquote, a story of absolute victimhood, because it has consequences, not only in the sense of training our learners, but also in terms of how those learners step into public affairs and into the polity.
Terence Kala, I mean, as you say, this is still at the public commentary stage, so it's not cast in stone. But do you appreciate the criticism from academics who are worried that this is more political than necessarily academic, and it may limit the view and perspective of those who learn it?
No, most certainly. I think we welcome the discourse. So we welcome the engagement around the topic of education. And I think we welcome the insights of our good professors as well, because this is the kind of academic knowledge that we need to come forward so that we can really have a history curriculum that carries the true story of South Africa. And I think it's important that we make sure that we don't entrench that narrative that this is anti-world history and pro-African history. I think what it does is it elevates African history, which has historically been underrepresented, but it doesn't necessarily remove or prohibit world history. So I think it's important. We do welcome the discourse, we welcome this engagement, and we encourage all of our interested parties to make formal representation, because those are the representations that will be considered, taken forward, and make sure that once the final amendments are put forward, they are adequately packaged and they take into consideration the very important and relevant views of all of our stakeholders, not only our academics, not only our parents, not only our educators, but all of your listeners as well are invited to make comment, and really just make sure that we can have a thorough consultative process.
All right, appreciate your time both. Terence Kala, the Department of Basic Education spokesperson, and Professor Siseko Khumalo from the University of Johannesburg. I think my red flags when he talks about the true story, the true history. Whose truth might we be talking about? Your views.
EWN Business.
Let's move away from history to the present. Mateo Harive, manufacturing remaining under pressure as production slows. This is business news.
Yeah, South Africa's manufacturing sector had a tough February with overall production going down compared to the same time last year. Stats SA says output slowed by 2.8%, pulled down by the food and beverages sector. The biggest slowdowns were seen in that particular sector, which was down 4.5%. Wood and paper products and metals and machinery also came in lower. The sector contributes about 12 to 13% to GDP, remaining a crucial one for economic growth in the country.
The information regulator wants more details from banks about data breaches.
Yeah, Standard Bank and Liberty will have to give more details to the information regulator about data breaches. Both lenders reported last month. Standard Bank says it detected unauthorized access to its clients' personal information, which included names and ID numbers. On the 23rd of March, the bank alerted its customers about an incident where unauthorized access to some personal information was detected. The information regulator now wants to know what exactly was exposed. The authority monitors and enforces compliance of the Protection of Personal Information Act, POPIA.
All right. What is the value of the rands in the bank?
It's still not looking good. Just the fragility around the truce between Iran and the US still has not...
Truce?
Ceasefire. Let's say a ceasefire. You're also not convinced. Investors aren't either, and that's why we're seeing the JSE All Share down 1,000 points yesterday. Industrials are down 1%. Financial stocks were down close to 2%, with mining shares also coming in lower. The rand at 16 rand 43 against the US dollar, down by close to 0.5% this morning at 19 rand 19 cents against the euro. 22 rand 2 cents gets you a British pound. Price of gold at $4,759 an ounce. It's lower this morning. Platinum down 2.5% at $2,065. Brent crude up 1.5% at $96 a barrel. More business after 8.
We will not be moved, says the Democratic Alliance. Mbali Dlamini, good morning.
A very good morning, Bongani. The DA says its economic inclusion and redress policy is not expected to be tweaked at this weekend's Federal Congress. Over 2,000 delegates will gather to consider policy changes as well as to elect a new leadership. Presiding officer of that Congress, Werner Horn, says the gathering will be dealing with its highest number of policy proposals ever that may spill over beyond the two-day event to its Federal Council. Lindsay Dentlinger has more.
While delegates at this weekend's DA Congress are expected to consider a number of policy proposals and vote on resolutions, the party is standing firm on its position on economic redress. Presiding officer Werner Horn says given the party's recent policy conference, no updated version of this policy is expected to serve before its Congress.
We're not in favour of ANC-style triple BEE, and where we advocate for the use of poverty as the criterion to determine whether individuals must qualify in terms of redress assistance.
Voting for positions within the party's Federal Council began yesterday, including the powerful position of chairperson held by former party leader Helen Zille. However, the outcome is not expected to be announced until Sunday, when a new party leader will also be made known. Lindsay Dentlinger, Eyewitness News.
The Cape Crime Crisis Coalition says the roaming nature of Operation Prosper is failing to curb gang violence in Cape Town. Nearly 40 people have been killed and about 48 others wounded in the past 10 days. This is while 200 soldiers were deployed to gang hotspots in Cape Town. Camry Clark takes a look.
39 people have been killed over the past 10 days, and 4 minors are among about 48 people who have been wounded. On Tuesday night, a 6-year-old girl and 2 boys aged 12 and 13 were wounded in a gang-related shooting that killed 2 men at Hazeldene Taxi Rank in Mitchell's Plain. Just yesterday morning, another 6-year-old girl was wounded in the head while caught in the crossfire of a gang shootout. Llewellyn McMaster from the Cape Crime Crisis Coalition says while initiatives like Operation Prosper are important, communities need sustained intelligence-driven response.
The reality is that short-term roaming deployments cannot on their own address the deeply rooted and systemic nature of gang-related violence.
The coalition is calling for consistency and accountability along with a long-term commitment to restoring dignity to suffering communities. Camry Clark, Eyewitness News.
And in Ecuador, government has announced it will be imposing 100% tariffs on imports from Colombia starting in May. This is the latest move in a mounting diplomatic feud between the two countries. Ecuador kicked off a trade war with Colombia in January over what it described as the country's lack of cooperation in combating drug trafficking and illegal mining along their shared border. Colombia responded with 50% tariffs and by halting electricity sales to Ecuador, which has now suffered chronic energy shortages. Talks between the two countries have failed to produce a breakthrough. A partly cloudy Friday in store for Gauteng today. Lows of between 13 and 15 degrees and highs of between 26 and 29.
And in the traffic, we've got delays on the Mark 1 North between Borison's Road and Empire Road. There's also queuing traffic on the N3 North. This is between the Geldermees Interchange and Modderfontein Road due to peak time delays as well as roadworks.
The top story in EWN, the DA says its economic inclusion and redress policy is not expected to be tweaked at this weekend's Federal Congress.
The Clement Maniatella Show on 702.
The Clement Maniatella Show is about everything. It's about current affairs, family matters, the work environment, your health and wellness, relationship and sex issues that couples face. It's about learning, helping each other, healing, teaching. It's about life in essence. What I like about the 702 family and 702 land is that we are quite intentional about doing life together. We're always pulling through for each other, learning from each other, always teaching each other. We're not scared to disagree, but also we're brave enough to be vulnerable with each other. We just care about each other, and I think that is priceless.
The Clement Maniatella Show, weekdays from 9 to 12 p.m.
Gosh, it's one thing to cook something you know, but an entirely different to take a familiar ingredient and then elevate it, but doing so under serious pressure. Well, this week on MasterChef South Africa, that pressure will reach a new level as the losing team from last week is forced into a high-stakes elimination challenge. There's no safety net, everything to prove, a face-off in a challenge that will test technical skill and mental resilience. The brief centers on one of South Africa's most familiar ingredients, the whole chicken. But this is far from a comfort zone challenge. Contestants must break down the entire bird and transform multiple elements, tricky cuts like livers, gizzards, hearts, necks, feet. What to do with those? Can you turn those into a refined MasterChef worthy tasting plate? Don't miss the 8th episode of MasterChef South Africa Season 6 this Sunday at 6 p.m. on ETV.
New from the House of Citroën.
Ah, so stylish.
470-litre boot space. I need it.
Keyless entry, so chic.
Cruise control. Oh, bonjour.
4-year or 60,000 kilometer service plan. Oui.
The stylish, all-new Citroën Basalt is here. You want a piece of it. Starting from 354,900 Rand. Register now for limited deal assist of up to 40,000 Rand. Visit citroen.co.za. T's and C's apply.
Hi, this is Anlia Itzebet, Hollywood Bets brand ambassador. A reminder that you can still shoot for the stars while playing responsibly. If you or someone you know needs help, call the South African Responsible Gambling toll-free counselling line on 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp help to 076 675 0710. Hollywood Sportsbook is a licensed betting operator. Hollywood Bet supports responsible gambling. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop.
The Money Show.
Weekday evenings at 6.
Is it still true to say Gauteng drives the South African economy?
Cape Town has emerged as a clear winner over the last 10 years. We're still talking about fairly modest levels of growth, at best 3% in a particular period. So the performance of Joburg and the big cities in the Gauteng metro certainly have been a concern when you look at the data over the last 10 years.
Justin Fasaki is an associate professor at the Southern Centre for Inequality Studies.
The Money Show
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
The Money Show, Stephen Curtis, is brought to you by ABSA Sponsorships. For 20 years, ABSA has been a proud sponsor of the ABSA Cape Epic. And now they're giving you a chance to take your grit to the gravel. Join Team ABSA Cycling on Strava. Upload your rides and you could win one of 2 ABSA Cape Epic 2027 team entries. Because your story matters. ABSA is a registered FSP.
On Sunday, 12th April, Josie My Josie's Main Street Sundays is taking over Marshalltown and flipping the script on how Josie moves. One whole street in the heart of the city closed to cars, just people vibes and that Main Street magic. There'll be music, food, a local is lacquer makers market and a free activity all day. 702 Soulful Sunday with Kenny Maestri and Pushaza Sabia will also be there, broadcasting live from the inaugural Main Street Sundays from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Go to josiemyjosie.com right now for all the details and grab your free tickets. And let's show the city what happens when the streets belong to the people. Josie, my Josie. Babiza bonke.
702.
WhatsApp Bongani on 072
702 1702.
Good morning, Bongani. I think having Afrocentric history in an African country makes a lot of sense. We just need to be very careful about how we structure it, because things like the French Revolution talk about how ideas can be useful and dangerous. And if we just look at African history on its own, it will most likely become a racially charged history. And so we must just be careful that it's not just a race-based approach to things, and that we do actually talk about the risks of dangerous ideas, and so that we don't have history repeating itself. Here, there are important lessons that we can learn from Western history. But I do think it does make sense to have a bit more of an Afrocentric approach so that South Africa becomes a little bit more integrated in its thinking into the rest of the continent, because we are often seen as completely separate.
I don't think that it's necessary to completely erase American or European history. In DRC, for example, in grade 9 we do DRC history. grade 10 we do the history of Africa, grade 11 we do the history of the world, and then grade 12 again we do the history of Congo, DRC. So there is always a way of trying to make sure that the people are not only focusing on South Africa per se, but also knowing the world, because it's important. Yeah, that's my comment.
Good morning and happy Friday to you, Bongani, and the 702 family. As a side note on the conversation on history, it is also important because we are living in times of history. It's not something that will be told by generations after us. I remember with COVID, to make mental notes of when it started and how everything that has happened on a day-to-day, because it was something completely new. And for my granddaughter to know, and my lived experience is history for her, not told by someone else. So it was just an interesting side note. Thank you.
Égalité, liberté, fraternité. How do you not teach those? And of course, I fully accept that we need to reflect the continent. We can't teach our kids that nothing of consequence had occurred on this continent before Jan van Riebeeck or Bartholomew Dias or what's the other one, Vasco da Gama. I fully understand that. But the Anglo-Boer War, how do you explain what happens after 1910? The union of South Africa, the formation of the African Congress, African National Congress. If you don't explain the Anglo-Boer War, how do you explain legislation such as the 1913 Land Act if there's no context? How do you explain what happens in how? How do you not teach kids who Martin Luther King Jr. was, who Malcolm X was, how the civil rights movement intersected with our own struggle in South Africa, how these leaders were inspiring each other, Gandhi inspiring MLK, MLK inspiring the likes of Mandela? How do you not make those connections? Is it me?
702.
What's the question?
What's the question is brought to you by Outsurance. Your chance to win up to 3,000 Rand in cash. First, 1,000 Rand for the answer. Then, a little later, 2,000 Rand if you can give us the question. SMS out to 45142 now. You could save on your car insurance. And you can ask Outsurance for 500 Rand if you don't. Today's answer comes from Peggy. Peggy, I believe you're in Mossel Bay. Peggy, good morning.
Yes, good morning, Bongani and your team.
What's today's answer, please, Peggy?
Today's answer, Bongani, is babyface.
Babyface is today's answer. And Peggy, tell me, have you got yourself a quote from Outsurance?
Oh, yes, Bongani, I have.
You biscuit, 1,000 Rand is coming your way, all thanks to 702 and Outsurance. There you go. If babyface is the answer, what's the question? Call us if you know on 011 883 0702.
EWN Sport.
Anthony Teixeira, let's talk golf and driving and influence. Rory McIlroy.
Yes.
How is his driving?
His driving is exceptional.
Has it influenced the game?
I would say it has influenced the opening round quite extraordinarily, considering that he has the joint lead.
So a lot of golfers under his influence.
I would certainly say so right now. The only person that isn't is Sam Burns.
Yes.
Who's also the co-leader with him.
Tiger Woods is not under that influence.
No. Very interesting fact,
He's under a very different influence.
Very interesting fact. It's actually the first Masters to be played without Phil Mickelson or Tiger Woods since 1994. That's 32 years that those two have been there.
Gosh.
Yeah. So let's see who can
different
step up.
Influence, hey?
Totally different. Rory McIlroy says he grew into that opening round at Augusta National, the defending Masters winner co-leading with Sam Burns after they both carded a 5-under par 67.
We're playing the first major of the year. It's the Masters. If I felt absolutely nothing on that first tee, that's not a good sign. So it was nice to feel my hand shaking a little bit when the tee went into the ground and struggled to put the ball on top of the tee. So I knew I was feeling it, and that's a good thing. Like, that's why we want to be here. We want to be able to try to play our best golf when we're feeling like that.
Highest placed South African is Charles Schwartzel, who lies 8 back on 3 over par. Switching to football now, where CAF President Patrice Motsepe rejected accusations of corruption made by Senegal after the shock decision to strip them of the AFCON title and award it to Morocco. Motsepe calling on those who have misgivings to initiate legal action.
If anybody or any government or any individual has any perception or there's an allegation of corruption and you want to go to court, please go ahead. As I said, I don't just welcome it, I encourage you to do that.
There were wins for Aston Villa and Crystal Palace in their respective Europa and Conference League first leg quarter-finals, while Nottingham Forest rescued a 1-1 draw to take home for next week's second leg against Porto. In tennis, Yannick Sinner and Carlos Alcaraz both pushed to a third set, but eventually they powered into the Monte Carlo Masters quarters. Here's the Italian.
I felt great before the match. Then in the second set, I struggled a bit with trying to find the right energy, but this can happen, I try to push myself through, and even when you don't feel the best, trying to find ways, and that was the case today. So I'm happy, and now the main priority is to recover and then hopefully be ready for tomorrow. It's going to be a tough match.
There were also straight-set victories for De Minaur, Zverev and Bublik, while Ruud retired hurt. And the Formula One season may be on break, but we're still feeling its influence. A lead Red Bull engineer, Gianpiero Lambiasi, has agreed to join McLaren from 2028. He'll become the constructor's chief racing officer, working directly under the team principal Andre Stella. Red Bull confirmed he'll remain as Max Verstappen's race engineer and the head of racing until his contract expires. Anthony Tosheda, Eyewitness News Sport.
EWN Traffic.
12 minutes to 8 o'clock. Let's catch up with the roads. Delays on the M1 North. Amma, what's going on there?
That's correct, Bongani. This is a stop and go basically from Boyson's Road towards the Kilani Bends due to multiple reasons. We've got an accident that's been reported. This is right near Hudson Drive. It's causing these delays, so please be on the lookout there. And if you're off-ramp along Jan Smuts Avenue, do expect heavier traffic volumes. There's an accident that happened right after Winnie Mandela Drive causing delays. That's as you head towards Craig Hall Park. And if you are traveling on the N3 North, we've got delays between Modderfontein Road and the Baku interchange due to that earlier accident that happened near Marlborough Drive. Traveling in the city of Tshwane, queuing traffic on the N1 South, that's between the Flying Saucer interchange and Water Avenue. There's also queuing traffic along the R80 East Mabopane Highway in Mountain View, heading towards Eskiam Patel Drive, and traffic lights are out of order in Centurion at Old Johannesburg Road and Braakfontein Road. They're also out of order in Braakfontein at Nelmapius Drive and Oliver Nordbosch Avenue. More updates coming up. Stay tuned.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app. 702.
What's the question?
For 2,000 Rand in cash, all thanks to Outsurance. Please tell me, what's the question? The answer is babyface. Let's go to the lance. Who has it right? John in Johannesburg. What's the question? All right, John, not quite hearing us. Let's try Mpumi in Diepkloof. Mpumi, what's the question?
Morning, Bongani. The legendary American singer who's writing songs.
Okay, not sure what happened to Mpumi. Let's see if John is still there. John, what's the question?
Hello?
Hello, John.
Can you hear me?
What's the question?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you, John. What's the question?
Yes, it's Jean-Pierre, Bongani.
Jean-Pierre.
Yes, the question is, what is the name of the singer, American singer who turned 67 years old today?
Oh, I thought you were saying, Jean-Pierre, can you hear me is the question.
No. You said John, so I wasn't sure if you were to me.
Oh, I beg your pardon. Jean-Pierre, that is absolutely the question. Babyface, turning all of 67 today.
Yes.
2,000 Rand coming your way, Jean-Pierre. All thanks to Outsurance and 702.
fell in love, and who could blame us? The word was we were just beside ourselves, and everybody said it wouldn't last. Now they wonder why we didn't last. We fell in love, it seemed so righteous. Couldn't compare our love to no one else, and everybody thought we could not win. It's no wonder love came to an end. And our feelings just aren't feelings anymore. They're just words that come from whispers from people we don't know. And our feelings, yeah, just aren't feelings anymore. They're just words without emotion from people who don't know.
Don't pay more than you need to for car insurance. 27-year-old Outsurance client Liam is saving big bucks.
I'm saving so much every month, around 640 Rand.
That's an amazing 640 Rand saving on Liam's 2024 Ranger. SMS out to 45142. Let's hear how 45-year-old Nivan feels about saving 461 Rand a month on his 2025 VWT Cross.
Saving me so much money, 461 Rand.
Nice one. And after 3 claim-free years, you get an out bonus.
So much money.
Get a quote now and see how much money Outsurance could save you. SMS out to 45142. If you don't save, ask for 500 Rand or 1,500 Rand if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. Savings or cash. You have nothing to lose with Outsurance. SMS out to 45142. That's out to 45142. Licensed insurer in FSP. TCs and information online.
How's it, Doff? How's it, Savvy? Why are you sitting in your driveway all by your lonesome, Doff? Selling my car, Sav. I don't trust the internet. I like to wheel and deal my own wheels. That's how you make way more, Sav. Okay, so where's your car now, Doff? Potential buyers took it for a test drive. When did they take it for a test drive, Doff? 3 days ago. Should have sold it to We Buy Cars, Doff. Yeah, Savvy.
Don't be Doff, be savvy. We Buy Cars, geared for a fast, safe sale, geared for you.
You may know or may not know the difference between shares and, say, bonds. Ask Muteo, right? But you don't have to ask Muteo about a great Outsurance deal. Get a car insurance quote now and see if Outsurance can't save you money, or you can ask them for 500 Rand. They'll even make it 1,500 Rand if you've been claim-free with the same insurer for 3 years. Get savings or cash. SMS out to 45142. That's out to 45142. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's, and information online.
Get a free optical frame when you get tested at Specsavers this April. Purchase a comprehensive eye examination and get your optical frame free up to the value of 1,000 Rand. Choose your free frame from our wide range of trendy, affordable styles. Get tested today at your nearest Specsavers or book online. Affordable eye care, Specsavers. T's and C's apply.
Time now for the world of viral content. Let's catch up with Kabazela. Kabazela.
Good morning to you, Bab.
Oh, you know those awkward conversations either in the family or at the office especially? This certainly would be one. I'll let you tell it.
Yeah, I think if it's family, it's probably less awkward because it's family. What are they going to do? Fight with you for a day and then, your best friends the next day. But when it comes to people at the office or maybe other public places that you frequent a lot, and you see the same people, it can be quite difficult and challenging, I think, as a politician would say. So, if you have somebody at the office who maybe has a body odor and it's daily, or they, maybe they're sniffing a lot or with their nose. How do you tell them without, offending them? So this person posted a letter online, and he had to tell a colleague who has body odor, and he went about it by sending them a letter, gave them a letter, and on the folded letter it said, "Please read alone." And then the letter opens up, and you see it. He's, "Dear so-and-so," okay, we don't know who the name is because he's blocked it out. "I overheard some co-workers discussing you, so I thought I'd tell you that they and I have noticed a strong odor. And it's not the end of the day kind of work smell. It's first thing in the morning you smell this way. I'm telling you this not to be mean, but so that you can correct it. If I was you, I would want somebody to tell me. Sincerely, Anonymous." Now, what do you think of this letter? Do you think it was the right way to do it? Do you think the person should have gone up to the colleague and sort of pulled them aside and said, "Listen, I've noticed this, bit of Axe deodorant or whatever it may be would help." And have you had to do this to somebody at work? Maybe they have had a body odor, or like I said, they sniff all the time next to you and it annoys you. How have you approached somebody at the office or in a public place? Maybe it's in a gym even, and somebody has a sweaty body smell. How do you tell them without it getting into a bit of a fisticuffs?
Yeah, look, even with family, I think this would be awkward. It's an awkward conversation. How do you deal with it? And to be clear, we all have body odor. Just for some of us, it's stronger than others and more pleasant than others, perhaps. How do you deal with this kind of thing, especially at the office? That's what's gone viral with Kabazela.
702. Feedback with Baphelile Sambo.
Oh, Baphelile is here. I was wondering what that smell was.
Oh, wow. That's nice smell, right? Nice smell. I know.
But yeah, it would be hard, hey?
It is. I'll also take the approach on this Kabazela story. In fact, I'll type it out maybe on a sticky note. Type it out, not use my handwriting because I don't want it to be traced back to me. Type it out, leave it in your bag, Bongani, and hope you see it and run for my life.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Yeah.
I've been in this situation where I had a friend who had never used deodorant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we all figured it out.
Did you tell him?
I did.
And?
He bought deodorant.
And now, all thanks to you.
Friendship saved.
Yeah. Yeah.
Straight talk breaks no friendship.
100%. Talking about that, Bongani, for a big interview on South Africa changing its history curriculum. Listeners are not fully against it, but they want it to be fair and balanced. Michael on WhatsApp says, while the new draft includes early African history, it still leaves out other important groups like Indian workers who came as laborers. Other listeners worry that the new curriculum may focus too much on patriotic history, showing the ANC more and not giving enough space for other views.
The important bit is, whilst of course we appreciate people telling us what they think, and I'd certainly like more WhatsApps and voice notes on that, a far more important thing to do is comment, because it's out for public commentary. So the Department of Basic Education wants to hear from what South Africans think and what they want to be taught in their classrooms. And what do you think of the proposal to make history compulsory until grade 12? I think that's something that would be of enormous value. Do you agree? It's 8 o'clock.
This is EWN.
Still no answers following a deadly shooting in Omonde, and AKA's suspected murderers expected back in court. Good morning, I'm Bali Dlamini. Gauteng police are still investigating the motive behind a shooting in Omonde in the south of Johannesburg, which left 2 people dead. Yesterday, a high-speed chase took place between 3 vehicles, which came to a halt on Crownwood Road. According to police, shots were fired, with one of the cars believed to have been transporting cash. Police spokesperson Dimakatso Nebuhulwi says no arrests have been made so far.
The police are investigating a case of murder and attempted murder following a shooting incident that occurred on the afternoon of the 9th of April at Crownwood Road in Omonde. 2 people have been declared dead and 2 taken to hospital with injuries.
Two brothers linked to the murders of rapper Keenan Forbes and celebrity chef Tibelo Motswane are expected back in the Durban Magistrates Court today for bail application. Siyabonga and Malusi Ndimande were brought back to the country 4 months ago after they fled to Eswatini following the murders. They face a string of charges, including murder. AKA and Tibbs, as they were popularly known, were murdered in 2023 in a shooting outside a restaurant on Florida Road in Durban. Nhlanhla Mabaso reports.
It's been 7 months since the Ndimande brothers were officially charged on South African soil for the high-profile murder case. In November last year, dramatic scenes played out when the pair was transported from the King Shaka International Airport to the Magistrates Court in Durban under heavy police presence, including the elite Special Task Force. Police said the pair's return would be critical in solving the case. They will, at a later stage, be joined to 5 co-accused in the matter and stand trial in June. To date, the state has cell phone records, CCTV footages, bank records, and registrations of the vehicles believed to be linked to the assassinations. All accused have since last year been kept at the Hymax security prison in Kokstad. Nhlanhla Mabaso, Eyewitness News, Durban.
Trade Union Federation COSATU has raised concerns about public servants being excluded from receiving rewards for whistleblowing. Yesterday, Justice Minister Mameloko Kubai released the Protected Disclosure Bill to address the gaps in existing legislation on whistleblowers. Deputy Minister Andre Snell explained that according to that bill, whistleblowers will not be awarded upfront rewards but would receive up to 25% of the monetary sanction imposed on a convicted employer. But he has explained that there are categories of people who are excluded from receiving such a reward.
The first is someone who's in the public service. Secondly, someone contemplated in Section 34 of the Prevention and Combating of Corrupt Activities Act. Someone who provided such information as part of a plea agreement, or someone who is an accomplice in respect of the offence.
But COSATU's Matthew Parks says public servants being excluded is a flaw in the proposed bill.
This is a fundamental flaw, as many public servants, in particular junior staff, are very vulnerable to victimization. Equally, junior public procurement staff often have invaluable information about wrongdoing by senior management and service providers. Their intelligence is key to securing successful prosecutions. Their protection and rewarding are key to incentivizing them to take risks to their careers, lives, and families by exposing corruption.
The Johannesburg Stock Exchange is urging South Africans to come forward if they suspect that they may have unclaimed investments. Currently, there is at least 4.5 billion rand that exists in unclaimed investments. The stock exchange has launched a new WhatsApp channel called Claim It that will allow potential beneficiaries to register their details and verify their banking information directly from their mobile phones. The JSE's Vuyo Lee says the funds are often linked to dormant accounts or forgotten investments.
There are many reasons why someone could have unclaimed dividends, such as old banking details, old addresses, or beneficiaries of deceased estates, which makes it difficult to trace these shareholders and owners of dividends.
And U.S. President Donald Trump has accused Iran of doing a poor job of allowing oil through the Strait of Hormuz. Trump has also accused Iran of breaching the terms of their 2-week ceasefire agreement. The U.S. president took to his Truth social media platform, where he also warned Iran against imposing a toll for ships passing through the crucial waterway. As part of a ceasefire agreement, the two countries agreed that the strait would be reopened to allow movement of oil supplies. According to maritime tracking data, just 10 vessels have passed through since the Middle East war ceasefire took effect. Gold is trading at $4,744.76 an ounce. The rand is at 16.41 to the dollar, 22.06 to the pound, 19.20 to the euro, and Brent crude oil is at $96.41 a barrel.
There's queuing traffic in Sharon Lee along Malibongo Drive. This is between the N1 and Olivenhout Road. There's also queuing traffic reported on the Mike-1 North. This is between the Kilani Bends and Corlett Drive. An earlier accident is causing these delays.
And a busy sporting weekend with Pirates targeting Betway Premiership top as they head to Richards Bay this evening. Chiefs will be hosting a Galaxy Sunday, while Sundowns will then have a CAF Champions League semi-final first leg against Esperance in Tunisia. Premier League relegation 6-pointer tonight with the Wolves heading to West Ham. McElroy and Burns top of the Masters leaderboard after the first round, and Sabalenka fails to recover in time for the start of the clay season.
A partly cloudy Friday in store for Gauteng today. Lows of between 13 and 15 degrees and highs of between 26 and 29. The top story in EWN, Gauteng police are still investigating the motive behind a shooting in Omonde which left 2 people dead yesterday.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
Calling all small business owners. It's the 702 MTN Small Business Awards. Enter now on Prime Media Plus. Let's talk shop.
This is Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa
On 702.
Let's walk the talk.
8 minutes after 8 o'clock. Welcome to 702 Breakfast. What a week it has been, hey? Entire civilizations threatened with destruction. The Strait of Hormuz firmly in Iranian control. What was it for? What was it all for? Think of the number of Iranians who've lost their lives. And wasn't this so that they would rise up against the regime? Wasn't this so that there'd be a popular uprising? We forget how historic the Islamic Revolution was in modern history. The millions of people who rose up against the corrupt government of the old Shah. This is why we need to learn history. A proposal now by the Department of Basic Education that history must be compulsory for all learners until grade 12. Do you think that's a good idea? And what history should be taught? Some of the proposals include scrapping something like the Anglo-Boer War. I can't for the life of me understand why you would do that. It was such a pivotal event in South African history. Now, could you tell different perspectives of the Anglo-Boer War? Was it only between the English and the Boers? What about the Bapedi? What about the Zulu people? What about all those who participated on different sides of that war? Do you scrap it entirely because you want to focus on the liberation movements? How do you even begin to explain what liberation is if you don't tell the story of the French Revolution?
This is Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa
On 702.
Let's walk the talk.
Kabazela wants to know, a colleague has a pungent odor, but not in a pleasant way. I'd tell Muteo. I'd say, my guy, what's going on?
You'd leap at the chance.
Wow. Wow. I would do it with sensitivity. I would definitely do it without trying to embarrass you.
Yeah.
And I'd pull you aside. I don't think I could tell Amo.
I think it would be easier to tell.
I know, I couldn't.
Come on,
No,
I'm the easiest
sorry.
person around.
I would not be able to tell Amo.
So you tell me to tell Amo.
No, I would approach one of the producers, one of the
Okay.
female producers.
Mm-hmm.
Or, in the office, I call her Sis Prim, but many of the younger ones call her Mum Prim.
Yes.
Right? She's been at the station for donkey years. So she's sort of everyone's mother. I'd go to someone like Sis Prim and say, wink, wink, there's a situation. Because she's seen as a motherly figure, I don't think it would be as difficult to receive from her. Go tell somebody's wife, I'm sorry. Go tell someone's wife that they don't know. Couldn't do that, Amo.
I think it would be easier for me if you were smelling of alcohol. It's easier for me to tell you or Mute or anyone else. It's easier.
What's up?
Yeah, I already know, dude.
Are you having a drink in the morning?
That is not make sure. Please, can you try and get your life together?
It sounds easier. I remember a colleague who is no longer here in this building who would arrive reeking of whiskey every morning. But this was a big shot person.
Not a cologne.
I was a
used?
no. I was a lowly overnight newsreader in those days. So don't even try to figure out. We're talking 20 years ago. And it wasn't as easy.
I mean, you understand you were an overnight newsreader. Not that your position places you in a position where you can't be able to tell a person. But if you've established a friendship, I think that would be easier.
No, the only time this person ever tried to establish any kind of rapport, not friendship, was when they suddenly saw me on Carte Blanche. And then I would meet them and they'd be like, "Hey, Bongani!" And I was like, how's the whiskey?
Bongi and Kabazela, man, you're making me cracking up early morning. A couple of years ago, I and a friend and another friend, we were clubbing together, so we were driving together to work. And one of our friends, man, his feet would talk in all languages in the morning. And the two of us would discuss and say, listen, how are we going to resolve this problem? And especially in the winter when you put on the air conditioner. Man, that's when his feet talk the loudest. And we were discussing who's going to tell this guy or how are we going to approach it. We never did. We felt too ashamed to tell this guy that his feet is talking.
Good morning, Bongani. The issue of body odor and bad breath, the problem is we're all human beings. You also don't know yourself if you also have the same problem. But I refuse to believe that people do not know that their armpits are smelling, because what needs for you to take is sniff your underarms and you will smell yourself. The only problem is the breath. That is a problem. But yes, I would like someone to tell me if I have bad breath or I have body odor. But yeah, it's a tricky one. But it needs to be done. And that letter is quite sincere. I like it like that.
Hey, Bongani, good morning. This is Trolani. I feel for my son. He's 17 years old and he has this odor. And we have taken him to the doctor. And we don't seem to find relief. Yesterday I came back, I knew he was already in the house because sometimes he comes after me. When I came back, when I opened the door, I could smell that he's there. I don't know if what help can I get him, because I think we have tried everything that we could. I would like 702 to help me in this regard. Thank you, Bongani.
I have actually encountered that. Where for a medical reason, the person just gives off a really intense body odor. But the other thing, I think, let's maybe step back a little. Again, this is why history matters, right? For most of humanity, human beings, Homo sapiens, have not used any roll-on or body spray. In fact, perfume became a thing, particularly in Europe, because Europeans hardly took baths in those days, right? The ancestors that we all love so dearly, if you had to bring them around today, they wouldn't smell like you do. So I think sometimes context matters, right? And particularly for people who come from countries where you can barely put enough food on the table and there's wars going on. Deodorant is not going to be your biggest priority. But what if it's a medical issue? If there's any doctor out there who can help us decipher that, yeah, I mean, I just think that must be absolutely awful to deal with when everybody knows this is your particular story. Sipho, you said it happened to you?
Yeah, Bongani, it happened to me. I was actually, the time when you just smell your shirt under your armpits, and you say, "Oh, I'm fine. Let me just wear the shirt."
When you smell the shirt, yes.
Yeah, let me wear the shirt twice. So I went to work, got to work, and my colleagues, my manager, actually asked the outsourced IT guy. I must have smelled like a skunk, because she asked the outsourced IT guy to help me. So the guys asked me, "Can we go downstairs?" Then I accompanied him downstairs. We got there, he spray painted me all over my body, just spray painted me like a nagging fly. And I got the message that day. I smelled like something else. And it was embarrassing, but I got the message. And from that day on, I was using a pure deodorant perfume. Yeah, so it happened to me, Bongani. I know exactly what it
Sipo. Yeah.
Yeah.
I hear you, my friend. Thank you for sharing that story. Sammy, you're in Centurion. You want to talk about history and school?
Yes, Bongani. I say we shouldn't get rid of any of our country's history. We should tell it in its entirety, as it has happened. We shouldn't, whether it's in the Boer War, the Lands Act 1930, we should tell it as it has happened. But when it comes to history of other parts of the world, yes, I think we should tell all the things that are relevant to our country, that are going to benefit our children. Like, for example, you talk about the civil rights movements in countries like USA, Cuba, people like Martin Luther King. Sure, we should tell about those things, about those people. But only
Sammy,
the ones that are...
No, hold on. All these things are interconnected. The civil rights movement comes from a particular struggle. So part of Martin Luther King's approach, for example, as far as civil disobedience is concerned, he learned from Gandhi. Now, if you ignore Gandhi and say, but that only happened in India, you don't get to MLK, and you don't get to some of the struggles on this continent and how they were waged. Do you see what I mean?
That's what I'm saying. But say, for example, we're talking about Martin Luther King, right? But you cannot suddenly start telling them about other people in USA that are not relevant to us. There are certain people in USA that we shouldn't learn about them. Those people are just totally not relevant to us.
All right, Sammy, who decides what's relevant to us, I think is the question I'm asking. David, you're in Roodepoort. Body odor?
Good morning. One of the things that people don't take notice of is when you do your washing of your clothes, and certain washing powders have enzymes. Most of them have enzymes, and if the enzymes only start kicking in after a certain temperature, I think it's about 29 to 30 degrees. So if you have cold water washers and you're using cheaper washing powders, you end up with the enzymes are not reacting and getting rid of the body odor. As soon as I explained it to one of my friends, and he went home, and his wife was washing on cold water cycle. She put it on the 30 and above. Guess what? All the smell of his clothes went away, and it's very similar to body odor. Your clothes, what your clothes smell like. So depending on how these guys and what they use and what they wash, but it's generally you've got to have a bit of heat with the enzymes in the washing powders, and the cheaper ones are probably got less, or I'm not exactly sure about it. I used to know about it some while ago, but that's really the secret. As soon as you've got to wash the clothes at the correct temperatures, because there's nothing worse than you walk past these and you think this guy, and you know this guy baths and he's clean, but his clothes smell, and it smells like body odor. So it's a case of maybe some research needs to be done with get a professional in on enzymes and washing powder.
I think that's a great idea, David. I think we'll do exactly that. Maybe sometime next week get somebody to explain all of this and the science of it all and what it means in terms of even from medical points of view. One of the things I love about the show is how much I learn from 702 Landers. Hey, I've never thought about the temperature that you must use for your washing. Zamklaka, you're in Alex. You recommending a particular soap?
Bongani, when we were growing up in the dusty townships, we had our peers who had the same problem.
I remember our school teachers would actually advise some of these boys to use what was called blow soap. Blue soap.
I remember blue soap.
Yes, and it really works. I don't want to lie. And
Really?
and that soap was actually designed to wash horses, because horses smell a lot after they probably raced, and that body odor or the odor of horses, sweaty horses, you take it away using that blue soap.
Huh? Where do you get blue soap these days? Where did we get it in those days? Ipeleng, you'll have the last word on this. You want to speak to the issue of that gentleman who was struggling with body odor?
Yes. Hi, Bongani. Good morning, and good morning to you and the 702 listeners.
Good morning to you.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to say, I was watching a talk show in previous years, and the Chinese lady said the reason the reason that she doesn't use any deodorant at all is because she's eating healthy. So we all know Chinese people are very famous for eating quite healthy. So she says she cuts out the spices and the sauces and whatever, but I don't know what she uses as an alternative.
Yeah.
But that has reduced her body odor, and she doesn't get to use any deodorant. And they actually had this image where the person sitting next to her actually literally smelled her armpit, and she said there's absolutely no smell. And she all thanked it to healthy eating.
Okay, Ipeleng.
Yeah.
I still choose seasoning, hey?
Look, I like seasoning. I cook with spices all the time, but I make sure that I balance it with water.
I'm here for seasoning. I'm sorry, Ipeleng. Appreciate the call.
EWN.
23 after 8, the CWN traffic brought to you by Outsurance. SMS out to 45142 now. You could save on your car insurance. If you don't, you can ask them for 500 Rand. There were issues on the N3 North. I think you said there were roadworks. Amo?
That's correct, Bongani. And as we speak, we've got delays between Marlborough Drive and the Baklu interchange. There's also queuing traffic on the N3 South heading towards Germiston. More roadworks are causing these delays. While traveling in Sharon Lee, queuing traffic along Malibongo Drive between the N1 and Bel-Air's Drive. There's also still moving traffic on the N1 North towards Midrand just as you come out of the Baklu interchange. More updates coming up. Stay tuned.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Sitting in a traffic jam is as fun as getting to work to find someone has taken your favorite parking spot. Not cool, right? But fortunately, the Outsurance pointsmen are on the roads, easing traffic congestion so we all get to where we need to be quickly and safely. And they've been doing it for the past 20 years. With Outsurance, you really always get something out. In proud partnership with 702, Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP.
702, The World View.
With Adam Gilchrist.
Let's catch up with news from elsewhere in the world. Adam, what did the Irishman say about the fuel increase?
Yeah, I'm afraid there's no punchline. The Irish are not happy. Fuel increases, of course, put extra stresses on food and water and animal feed and you name it. But they've been blockading motorways and highways. I say they, it's sometimes trucks, vans, ordinary people in cars. And those blockades are then adding to the problems with food, fuel, water and animal feed supplies. Now the army is moving in. The police say they can't contain it any longer. This is now a fourth day of protests across the Republic of Ireland. So the Irish army are now helping out and moving the blockades forcibly if necessary. And just to put it in perspective, because we haven't had any particular fuel protests here, though fuel prices have gone through the roof. You, I don't believe, have had any fuel protests. I think generally across Europe and Asia, not so many protests, though a lot of grumbling. But in Ireland, let's put it like this. Petrol is just under €2 a litre, roughly speaking 38 Rand.
Sure.
Diesel just over €2 per litre, so that's 40 odd Rand. That's pricey, isn't it?
Yeah, no. I guess for now, we're not quite there yet, Adam. And maybe that's why we're not blockading just yet. Talk to me about this rescue in Mexico.
Yeah, Mexican army divers called in on this. Basically, a flooded underground tunnel in a gold mine. A dam had burst. The tunnels got flooded. 21 miners managed to get out. This is all in the Mexican state of Sinaloa. But 4 were trapped underground. Unfortunately, we now know 1 is dead. 1 is still missing. One of the miners was found after 5 days. And one of them, Francisco Zapata Nayera, now there's a name, he was found after 13 days. So he's in waist-high water, stuck underground in the dark. I mean, he had a torch, but he was, of course, using it sparingly. And in fact, when rescuers turned up after 13 days, he was blinking his torch. There was still some battery left, so they were able to locate him. But then, having found him, they gave him some tuna and some energy bars and said, we're going to have to scarper because we'll run out of oxygen and we need to clear some water out of the way before we can possibly take you to the surface. So they left him alone for another day. So he was 2 weeks underground before they brought him to the surface. A happy ending, at least, for the unforgettably named Francisco Zapata Nayera. But he also says he never lost faith during his ordeal. I'd say 13, 14 days, that's a test of faith, all right, isn't it?
I don't know if I could survive 13 hours, never mind days, Adam. Let's talk about the return of the Fab Four.
Yeah, they are due to splash down, and isn't it exciting to use the word splash down? You never use it any other time, I think, apart from a space capsule. Anyone else? No, splash? Maybe in a water park, maybe. But yeah, these four return in, I think it's about 18 hours, pretty much. And we know that splashdown is no gimme. NASA scientists will have to make sure that all the right things work, the parachutes deploy, the thing slows down and so forth. But the Orion spacecraft will come down somewhere off San Diego in the Pacific Ocean. The thing is, I'm just going to put it out there, that for quite a lot of the time, we had them all gasping and wowing at the sights they were seeing. It was a bit Katy Perry in space at some stages. The mission pilot, Victor Glover, says they have so many photos and so many stories to share. The mission commander, Reed Wiseman, says the greatest gift was seeing a lunar eclipse. Was this a vital scientific expedition? Was it understandably a spin around the block to road test a new vehicle? We've all done it with a new car. You just want to have an excuse to take it out. Or was it a giant photo op for a bunch of holiday snaps? I'm just asking the question.
I'm just going to be playing Rocket Man, Elton John all weekend. Adam Gilchrist with this morning's Worldview.
EWN Business.
29 after 8. We've looked at this somewhat, but now the information regulator, which wants more information when it comes to banks and data breaches. This is an important one.
Yeah, that transparency, very important. Standard Bank and Liberty will have to give more details to the information regulator about data breaches. Both lenders reported last month. Standard Bank says it detected unauthorized access to its clients' personal information, which included names and ID numbers. On the 23rd of March, Standard Bank alerted its customers about an incident where unauthorized access to some personal information was detected. In a later announcement, the bank said its systems were not impacted and remain secure and operational. Now, the information regulator wants a bit more information to be exposed. The authority monitors and enforces compliance of the Protection of Personal Information Act, otherwise known
Makes
as
you that nervous,
POPIA.
Who's got my information? What do you bank with? Where's the rand?
I won't say. The rand is at 16 Rand 40 against the US dollar, down this morning, 19 Rand 17 cents against the euro, 22 Rand 2 cents against the British pound. Price of gold at $4,761 an ounce, while platinum is down 2.5% at $2,067. Brent crude up 1.7% this morning, $96 a barrel. That's your morning business. I'll bring more this afternoon.
Straight to the news desk we go now. Mbali Dlamini, let's talk about Sassa.
Thanks, Bongani. A very good morning. Well, the Social Security Agency has welcomed a constitutional court judgment in its favor, calling it a powerful affirmation of the legal system. This week, the Apex Court ordered service provider Cash Paymaster Services to repay over 81 million rand to Sassa in a dispute that has gone on for years now. The amount represents profits from Sassa's contracts with CPS, which was previously declared invalid. Sassa CEO Themba Matlou says the judgment affirms the rule of law. Spokesperson Paseka Letsatsi.
We are satisfied with the order handed down by the justices of the Constitutional Court. We believe this is a vital precursor to addressing other outstanding issues concerning CPS and finally close the chapter. In addition, Mr. Matlou said Sassa will abide by all the directives issued by the Concord and put the matter to bed.
3 suspected illegal miners have been arrested by Ekurhuleni Metro Police. Officers followed up on a tip-off from community members yesterday about activities taking place in the Etwatwa area. The officers inspected the identified property and nabbed the 3 suspects. Jabulile Mbata has more.
Ekurhuleni Metro Police say community members around Etwatwa suspected suspicious activity like continuous digging taking place at a particular residence when they called for intervention. When officers pounced on the suspects, they were found with mining equipment, including gas cylinders, shovels, a cutting torch, and steel balls. EMPD spokesperson Millicent Gekana says this illegal mining poses a potential threat to the environment.
All 3 suspects were arrested and detained at Etwatwa police station. They are facing charges of illegal mining, and they are expected to appear before the Davidson Magistrate Court soon.
Gekane says the EMPD also commends community members for being alert and reporting illegal activities. Jabulile Mbata, Eyewitness News.
And the Cape Crisis Coalition says the roaming nature of Operation Prosper is failing to curb gang violence in Cape Town. Nearly 40 people have been killed and around 48 others wounded in the past 10 days in the city. This while 200 soldiers were deployed to gang hotspots in Cape Town. Camry Clark reports.
39 people have been killed over the past 10 days and 4 minors are among about 48 people who have been wounded. On Tuesday night, a 6-year-old girl and 2 boys aged 12 and 13 were wounded in a gang-related shooting that killed 2 men at Hazeldene Taxi Rank in Mitchell's Plain. Just yesterday morning, another 6-year-old girl was wounded in the head while caught in the crossfire of a gang shootout. Llewellyn McMaster from the Cape Crime Crisis Coalition says while initiatives like Operation Prosper are important, communities need sustained intelligence-driven response.
The reality is that short-term roaming deployments cannot on their own address the deeply rooted and systemic nature of gang-related violence.
The coalition is calling for consistency and accountability along with a long-term commitment to restoring dignity to suffering communities. Camry Clark, Eyewitness News.
A partly cloudy Friday in store for Gauteng today. Lows of between 13 and 15 degrees and highs of between 26 and 29.
And in the traffic, we've got roadworks taking place on the N3 North, and they are causing delays between Marlborough Drive and the Baklu interchange. There's also queuing traffic on the N1 South towards the Baklu turnoff, leaving Midrand.
The top story in EWN, the Social Security Agency has welcomed a constitutional court judgment in its favor, calling it a powerful affirmation of the legal system.
The Midday Report with Mandy Wiener.
The Midday Report at its heart is a current affairs show, but it really is a show about everything you need to know about and everything you didn't know you needed to know about. Our listener is sharp, plugged in, curious, has developed opinions, but is still open to learning new things. My favorite part is how witty, sharp, and funny our listener is. What we cover every day is breaking news, current affairs, politics, the courts, global developments, science, education, popular culture, sports, books, and of course, good things too. I like to think of it as a lunchbox with a little bit of everything. What I love about 702 Land is that it is full of energy. There's always something happening, a developing story to follow. But it's not parochial. The 702 family cares about what is happening in the world around them and how we plug into that.
The Midday Report with Mandy Wiener. Weekdays from 12 to 1 p.m.
On the go and your stomach suddenly not keeping up, that burn, bloating, or reflux could be symptoms of an ulcer, and stress can make it feel even worse. Ulcernic offers triple action relief by coating your stomach lining with a protective layer, and it works for up to 6 hours. No prescription is needed. Choose between suspension or effervescent tablets. Keep an eye on the shelf for Ulcernic's new packaging, a fresh new look outside, the same trusted relief on the inside. Visit the Ulcernic Facebook page for more.
Hi, this is Teko Modise, Hollywood Bet's brand ambassador. Be a winner who knows when it's time for a timeout and play responsibly. If you or someone you know needs help, call the South African Responsible Gambling Toll-Free Counseling Line on 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp help to 076 675 0710. Hollywood Sportsbook is a licensed betting operator. Hollywood Bet supports responsible gambling. No person under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop.
When was the last time you felt something?
Something that ignites your passion, gets your adrenaline pumping, and makes your heartbeat skip. When was the last time you fell in love? Introducing the new Alfa Romeo Junior with 280 horsepower and standard park assist. Learn to love again. Visit alfaromeo.co.za to book a test drive.
The water crisis in South Africa is no secret, but on the 19th of April, a concert for water at Nerock Sculpture Park reflects on the urgencies and shared entanglements which connect and sustain us through water, essential for life. Musically curated by DJ Bob, artists present a program selected and composed for the concert. This includes Paul Hanma, Tandintuli, Yonela Mnana, and others with the resident grand piano at, is it Nirox or Nirox Gardens? Amo? Nirox? Nirox? Nirox. Limited tickets available from niroxarts.com. Nirox is a private, not-for-profit foundation to benefit the arts. All income is used to maintain the grounds, the artist residency program, and artist support.
You're with Bongani Bingwa on 702.
Taking your calls on 011-883-0702.
Oh, here's an interesting one. We were talking, if you've just joined us, with Kabazela. How do you deal with that nasty body odor from a colleague? Do you confront it directly? We've been hearing all sorts of ideas from 702 landers. It's been fascinating. Apparently, the temperature that you use to wash your clothes might impact whether or not your natural body odor stays on those clothes or is removed. Is it Ivan or Ivan in Kempton Park? You've got an interesting solution.
Hi, good morning, Bongani. How are you?
I'm very well. Ivan, go ahead.
So I own a company called Impex Medical Supplies, and I manufacture materials that's used in the medical field. And basically the material kills bacteria. So like you mentioned, what causes the body odor is the bacteria that forms on you and onto your clothing. So we actually make material that's used in infection control. We bond pure silver into material, and that automatically kills odor. So if you wear anything used from that material, it kills 99.9% of bacteria. So we've tested where even somebody could use the same shirt for a week and they would not have any body odor because the material automatically, as you use it without doing anything, kills off the bacteria that does cause odor, that causes infection. In fact, the material is so effective, even when you put it in socks, if you've got things like athlete's foot, it kills off the bacteria that causes that as well.
You should make school uniforms, Ivan, hey?
Yeah, look, we are currently in the medical space, but we are looking to broaden and go into, like you're saying, the retail side of it as well, because it can be very helpful to all kinds of people.
Impex Clothing, how do people find you?
So it's Impex, IMPEX, Medical Supplies, and my email address is Impex, Ivan Govender at impexmedicalsupplies.co.za.
All right, Ivan, in this context, I say what, we'll give you the free advertising, hey?
Thank you. Thank you.
Appreciate that call. It's a difficult conversation to have with a colleague. Where would you begin?
EWN Sport.
Anthony Teixeira is here.
Cool.
No. Guess what I'm smelling? Guess what I'm smelling?
3 points.
I'm smelling the top of the log. That's what I'm smelling. No, not you. I would never suggest anything so impertinent.
Okay.
Anthony?
Lovely
Can you smell the top of the log?
No, I can't.
No?
But neither can Orlando Pirates. They can smell like just underneath the top of the log. But it could be a different story this evening, to be honest with you. Betway Premiership would see Orlando Pirates move top if they pick up a victory against Richards Bay this evening. They're 2 points off of leaders Mamelodi Sundowns, who don't feature in the league this weekend, as they play the first leg of the CAF Champions League semi-finals in Tunisia against Esperance Sunday. Bucks boss Abdeslam Mouadou's side have a better goal difference.
That's what you get for your impertinence.
And he's called on them to keep pushing just in case.
It's important for teams who are playing the first positions. The goal difference will be very important at the end of the season. For my boys, I told them, every games, we have to play them with a very strong fighting spirit until the last second of the last game. Why? Because we don't want to have any regret at the end of the season, you know.
Kickoff is at 7:30. The other Soweto Giants, Kaizer Chiefs, host TS Galaxy Sunday afternoon. In the Premier League, the match day begins this evening with the relegation 6-pointer between West Ham and bottom side Wolves. Or selected weekend fixtures will see table toppers Arsenal take on Bournemouth and the struggling Liverpool meet Fulham Saturday. Sunday, it's a big one, Man City heading to Chelsea. In golf, it's the first Masters of the year, with defending champ Rory McIlroy and Sam Burns sharing the lead at 5 under par, while the cricket this afternoon in the IPL has the Rajasthan Royals against the Royal Challengers Bangalore. In tennis, the Monte Carlo Masters quarterfinals are upon us and sees the unseeded Vacheron again and Fonseca against Dimino and Zverev respectively. World number 1 Alcaraz playing Bublik and Sinner meets Aga Aliassime, while the women's world number 1 Arina Sabalenka has been forced to pull out of the Stuttgart Open, citing an injury sustained during last month's Miami Open. Anthony Teixeira, Eyewitness News Sport.
EWN Traffic.
17 to 9, this EWN traffic brought to you by the House of Citroen. The all-new Citroen Basalt is here. Book a test drive at citroen.co.za.
Well, Bongani, most routes have cleared off traffic, but if you are traveling on the N3 North, we still have delays towards the Baklu turnoff. That's due to roadworks taking place along this route. There's also slow-moving traffic on the N1 South towards the Baklu turnoff. That's due to an accident as you leave Midrand, and traffic lights are out of order in Edenville at Modderfontein Road and Van Riebeck, as well as in Devland at the Golden Highway and Main Road. Please be on the lookout there and continue driving with care. More updates at the top of the hour.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
The all-new Citroen Basalt is here with keyless entry, wireless Apple and Android CarPlay. It's made to look good and to make life easy. And that 470-litre boot, well, it's ready for every outfit change and then some. The all-new Citroen Basalt Coupe SUV from 354,000 Rand. Register now for limited launch deal assist of up to 40,000 Rand. Book a test drive today at citroen.co.za. T's and C's apply.
702.
Add your voice.
Have your say.
Let's walk the talk.
On Sunday, the 12th of April, Josie My Josie's Main Street Sundays are taking over Marshalltown and flipping the script on how Josie moves. One whole street in the heart of the city, close to cars, just people, vibes, and that Main Street magic. There's music, food, a local is lacquer makers market, and free activities all day. And 702 Soulful Sunday with Kenny Maestri and Pushaza Sibiya will also be there, broadcasting live from the inaugural Main Street Sundays from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Go to josiemyjosie.com right now for all the details and grab your free tickets. And let's show the city what happens when the streets belong to the people, hey? Josie, my Josie. Babi Zebonke.
Join us.
Let's walk the talk.
This is 702.
Good morning, Bongani. Wow, that was a fascinating debate with regards to history. And, you know, I think it's a much needed conversation because African history has been omitted. It hasn't been told. But on the other hand, I sort of disagree with removing certain aspects of history in the curriculum, like the Anglo-Boer War. I mean, yes, we need to tell African history because there's people that believe that when Jan van Riebeck got here, there was no one in South Africa. You know, those things needs to be rectified and cleared. But on the other hand, while we're doing that, we cannot omit other aspects of history because they're still part of our history. They're still what has shaped South Africa. So this was a great debate and thank you for it. This is Tuto from Midrand.
Good morning, Bongani and 702 listeners. Bongani, this history issue is very interesting. For a very long time, it's a pity it took us 30 years to address this issue. Look, we need to balance the history because if it's told from a colonizer's point of view, there will be a lot of inaccurate facts. For example, I really don't understand, and I don't know if it's true the fact that I mean, maybe it's true from their side that they met the Khoisan in the Cape, but as soon as they started moving inland, they met the Zulus, the Xhosas, and other groups. So I think we need to balance this issue once and for all because we can't be focusing mainly on the Anglo-Boer War as if it's the only important history for South Africa. We need to balance this thing, and the historians and the professors must not just argue and want to throw this thing out. They must just focus on balancing the history so that it's taught factually to our children. Matonza.
Good morning, Bongani and your team. You are absolutely 110% right, Bongani. My kids are studying in an Afrikaans war school. That South African history, they don't even touch it at all. They select the kind of history that suit them. They don't talk about the apartheid, what happened before. They are hiding to those white kids, Afrikaners, and some few black kids there in that school. So history, it must be the way exactly it is. You cannot hide the truth at the end of the day from Maxwell in Pretoria.
Maxwell in Pretoria, as you say. For me, the thing that we must remember is that history is not mathematics. There isn't one set of indisputable facts, right? History is contested. That's the whole point. That's why it speaks to national identity. That's why it forms who we think we are and the story we tell of ourselves, about ourselves. But it's also about critical thinking. It's also about being able to examine information and understand why it is things may be framed in a particular way. One of the reasons I do what I do is journalism is colloquially sometimes referred to as the first draft of history. 20, 30, 40 years from now, everybody listening to us now might be able to say they remember when there was a US president who would post on social media about threats to destroy an entire civilization. People will remember when the price of everything went up because there was a chokehold on the Strait of Hormuz. Now, whose fault was it? That's what history is all about. Will we, in time, have a view that's sympathetic to the clerics in Tehran and the Islamic Revolution? Or will we have a view that's more sympathetic to the Gulf countries or even the West? Now. Isn't that why we study it?
Coming up
on the Clement Manyatela Show
on 702.
Clement Manyatela, a student of history himself.
Good morning, Bongani Bingwa. We're going to continue that conversation, in fact, that debate on the 702 open line. I mean, most of what I remember about my history was indeed the arrival of Jan van Riebeck, as crucial as it is in our history curriculum. And of course, there were other things, but I think there's a conversation about pre-colonial history. But I like what you said about critical thinking, because sometimes, and you said it earlier, Bongani, that history is written by the victors. And it's our responsibility then to go and look at other versions of history and make up our own minds, as opposed to rely just on one version. So we're going to have that conversation on the 702 open line and continue that debate. But also on the open line today, we're going to talk about the intention that parents have to teach their children about specific customs or traditions. So as a parent, are there specific traditions or cultures, customs that you are instilling in your children?
Can I tell you a story quickly? Very quickly.
Sure.
I remember, and I think I've told the story on air before, there was a family, Msebenzi, Mqimbi, and the long and short of it is an ox was meant to be slaughtered, the animal ran away, and one of the elders was called once, the men had recaptured the animal to come and talk to it, to calm it down. And I reflected with some friends recently how we are now at that age where if something like that were to happen, I might be called upon to calm the animal down and speak to the ancestors or what, and I wouldn't know what to say.
Yes, exactly, precisely. But is that a tradition you would want to continue?
I said to my friends, I said, I'm going to get into so much trouble for this, Clement. I said, it's really about the attitude, I think, and much less for the animal, what you say. So I said, you could even whisper it as calmly as you can and say, to the left, to the left.
Please.
Everything you own in a box, to the left.
Oh,
in my
my
closet.
God.
Yes, that's my stuff.
Okay, Beyonce.
If I bought it, don't touch.
That's wild,
I'm
Bongani.
kidding.
That's
I'm
wild.
kidding.
So I'm gonna hear what the other listeners think. And do they even know what they would do if they were called up to a situation?
What would you
like
say?
yours?
Would you speak to what would you say to the animal?
Angazi. This is what teeny.
To the left.
I said, calm down. At 10 o'clock, we're going to do our Across the Desk feature. And today I'm hosting lifeguards on Across the Desk. Lifeguards from the National Sea Rescue Institutes. This is actually the primary water rescue organization operating over 50 rescue stations along the South African coastline. So we're going to find out more about what the work of lifeguards are all about. If there's a question you've always wanted to ask a lifeguard, get it ready for 10 o'clock. And then we wrap up the show at 11 o'clock with our relationship and sex feature. Today, adult radio, no kids allowed at 11 o'clock. We'll be discussing how to navigate sex with a new partner or someone new after you've been celibate for a long time, or maybe you were bereaved or you had just come out of divorce. How do you navigate that? Because that can bring a lot of anxiety.
What's changed? Clement, between 9 and 12.
Well, you'll find out.
Small business owners speak a language of their own, and it's a language MTN Business and 702 understand very well. The 702 MTN Small Business Awards. Enter now on Prime Media Plus. Let's talk shop.
Welcome to Nando's Testimonials. Real reviews by real people. Today's testimonial comes from Jeff in Kempton Park. Now, Jeff seems to be a man of very few words. We've asked him to use his few words to tell us what he thinks of our flame-grilled peri-peri full chicken with any two sharing sides for $2.83. Jeff?
Nice.
Well, there you have it. When the meal is such a mouthful, you really only need a few words, I guess. Nando's. Oh, what a place.
Let's hear from Al, owner of Johnson's Cable, why it pays to switch to Outsurance Business Insurance.
I thought it was going to be difficult to switch to Outsurance Business Insurance. Switching was so quick and easy. I'm happy with the premium that I'm paying now.
For electrical, tradesman services, and all other businesses, get a quote today and see why it pays to switch to Outsurance Business Insurance. Visit outsurance.co.za or call 08600 60000 today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
Mzansi, be in it to win it when you play Powerball Plus for an estimated 63 million rand jackpot this Friday. You heard right. Play Powerball Plus for an estimated 63 million rand jackpot today for your chance at endless possibilities. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app or cell phone banking. Panda Pusha Play. Players must be 18 years old or play responsibly. Ituba is a proud operator of the National Lottery.
Joburg, get ready for the hottest music festival of the year, Scatterling's Music Festival. Sjava, Zex Bantwini, J Something Msaki, Jesse Clegg, Trezor, many more, all on one stage. Scatterling's Music Festival, Huddle Park, Johannesburg on the 1st of August. One day. Back-to-back hits. Early bird tickets are available from today for only 350 Rand each. Scatterling's Music Festival on sale at webtickets.co.za. Brought to you by 702.
This is Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa
on 702.
Let's walk the talk. This weekend.
It is here, is it not? Untitled Basement in Bromfontein. It's going to be a night you won't forget. It's happening tomorrow. Kwai Jazz, the soulful vibes of Bradon, like a singer, songwriter, producer, and I would say the father of so many genres of South African music, joining us now on the line. Bradon, always a pleasure to chat to you. You've been a pioneer of so much music in South Africa, whether it's jazz fusion in the 80s, the Kwai Jazz movement of the 90s. You dabbled in some Kwaito music as well. I mean, you've been around for as long as I can remember, actually.
Morning, Box.
I'm not calling you old. I'm not calling you old.
53 years in the music industry tells it all.
Goodness me. All right, so we've got this experience tomorrow night at Untitled Basement. Tell us more.
Yeah, it's going to be a great experience because I'll be performing some of the new material unreleased. I've just been signed with Sony. Sony is going to curate all my albums. Today they're releasing that. This is a big day for me. And with that curation of all the albums I've ever recorded, quite just albums, plus I'll be playing some new material from a sneak preview of the new album that's coming. It will contain over 25 tracks. Unbelievable music.
Wow, what a journey, what a legacy. All right, are we talking about an album of your music as a solo artist, or including songs you've written that others have performed, including, of course, some of the groups you have belonged to? And you know I'm a fan of yours going back to the 80s, the Image days.
Yes. So it will be new music that I've written, and some of the music that I've written in the 80s, which I've finished, because I used to write a lot of music. So I decided to finish off all the music. So it's all finished stuff, plus new material, plus the album will contain collaborations from some great musicians in the country. It's an exciting album, and I'll be introducing new artists, actually.
That's a fascinating thought. So, hang on, are you saying that as a songwriter, you will leave a song unfinished for years and then come back to it later, and then inspiration hits you to finish it?
Indeed. That's what happens with me. If I feel it needs something, and I will just leave it and come back to it. I don't just take anything and just throw it in there and say, no, this is a finished song. No, I don't work that way. So it has to be finished, and it has to have a statement, and it must tell a story of the culture of our people.
That's fascinating. Bradon, what's the most played song on your playlist right now?
A Big Day, it's the biggest song. Looks like it's the biggest song I've ever written. I don't know. I mean, wherever I go, into weddings, wherever I go. I mean, but I've written for other people.
What music are you listening to? That's what I'm asking. What is the music? What's the song you are listening to the most at the moment?
You won't believe it. I'm listening to Bach.
Classical music, is that where you go?
Yeah, that's what I'm listening to.
Okay. What's an instrument you wish you could still master?
It's a saxophone. I used to play saxophone and I dropped it. I used to play very beautiful soprano sax and played it for a few years and I dropped it. And I wish I could have mastered that and continued playing that instrument.
Do you remember the first album you ever bought?
Yes, I do.
Tell us.
It was Michael Jackson's Looking Through the Windows. Oh, that's the first album that I bought.
Oh, wow. Kwaito or jazz?
I think it was not a jazz album. It was a pop album.
No.
And the first album. Sorry.
No, we're misunderstanding each other. Because you're doing a Kwai jazz performance, right?
Yes.
So I'm saying, if you had to choose, which genre would you choose? Kwaito or jazz?
Jazz all the way.
Yeah, I suspected you would say that. Thank you so much. Good luck for the performance tomorrow. It's happening at Untitled Basement in Braamfontein. Doors open from 6 p.m. The show will start promptly at 8. You can get your tickets at Quicket, which is a much more guaranteed way to make sure you've got them than at the door, although they'll still be available there if you are lucky. Don Laga, Kwai Jazz Sessions, an evening with the legend himself at Untitled Basement tomorrow in Braamfontein.
702 podcasts are on 702.co.za.
And that brings us to the end of this edition of 702 Breakfast. Have yourselves a fantastic weekend. We'll see you bright and early on Monday. It's 9 o'clock.
This is EWN.
Good morning, I'm Bali Dlamini. Police watchdog IPID has recommended disciplinary action be taken against one of President Cyril Ramaphosa's senior protectors. This is in connection with running an off-the-book mission to try and recoup the stolen Pala US dollars. IPID has finally declassified its report looking into the conduct of Presidential Protection Service unit members in relation to that burglary at the president's farm in 2020. The